Legends never die. When the world is calling you.
在武汉打比赛的话，就是肯定会有武汉很多粉丝过来支持我，然后会让我打得越来越好吧，然后我也会成为武汉选手的骄傲的。
Can you hear them screaming out your name? Legends never die. They become a part of you.
The most positive theme to Worlds that I've always seen is that whatever happened before in the year has no impact to what happens now.
Relentless, you survive.
从我最开始第一次进到世界赛到现在，一共是4次了，拿到过2次亚军的嘛，然后觉得每一次都差那么一点点，所以说就觉得是可以拿到冠军的，但是每次都差那么一点点。
Not having anything to show internationally is a big thorn in my side. I read comments like Bjergsen's not considered a legend until he does something internationally, and I can't argue with that.
저희는 저랑 프레이 형은 항상 SKT한테 이제 롤드컵을 우승하는 업적을 만들어주는데 공헌이 된 느낌이잖아요. 왜냐면 저희는 늘 졌기 때문에. 여태껏 제가 실패를 해왔기 때문에 정말 이를 갈고 저뿐만 아니라 모든 팀원들을 다 열심히 이를 갈게 만들어서 꼭 혼심을 다해서 이번 연도는 꼭 우승해보겠습니다.
전설이 된다는 자체가 애초에 그냥 뭐 e스포츠에 이름을 남긴 거죠. 엄청 잘해서 계속 좋은 폼 계속 보여주고 그걸 꾸준히 유지하고 그러다 보면 이름이 남겨지고 저도 그런 선수가 되길 원하거든요.
사람들은 저를 이기면 전설이 된다 이렇게 말씀을 하시는데 저는 그건 아니라고 생각하거든요. 저도 처음에 데뷔했을 때 제가 앰비션 선수를 꺾고 오랫동안 1등 자리를 유지해왔거든요. 그렇게 해서 사람들이 전설이라고 많이 말씀을 해주시는데 그런 것처럼 저 같은 사람을 여러 번 꺾어야 전설이 된다고 생각합니다.
在全球总决赛，我对传奇的定义就是一个人完成了一些别人不可能完成的成就，我觉得这个就是传奇。
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Wuhan, China for opening day of the World's 2017 group stage. Over the next 5 weeks, 16 teams from regions all across the globe will fight for the Summoners Cup as the players get ready to step on stage in front of an electric crowd here in Wuhan Sports Center Gymnasium. As we saw in that opening tease, it's all about finding the legends here on the Rift. Faker, no doubt, is one of them, but who will be the one to contend him this year? Who might make a case individually or as a team to take the crown away from SK Telecom and become the new champions of the Rift? Time now, though, to head down to the LPL's Red Dawn to introduce the team.
英雄联盟全球总决赛，现场所有的召唤师们，拿出你们的热情，让我感受一下，好吗？大家好，我是任栋。那经过了一个赛季的征战，16支来自世界各大赛区的顶尖豪门将会在这里向冠军再次发起冲击。现在所有的战队都已经准备就绪了，让我们欢迎战队登场。首先有请 A 组战队。
我们恭喜EDG，居然在 LPL 的决赛上面完成了让2追3。
倒下了，但是主堡最终没有人防守的情况下面，我们要恭喜 ASQ。
Cloud9 will find their 3-0 victory and punch their ticket to the main group event at Worlds 2017.
首先有请3次世界冠军得主，来自于 LCK 赛区的 SKT。
Consecutive world champions SKT here to defend their title again. They may be second seed, but few would look past them as the big favorites for Worlds 2017.
Again, the perennial powerhouse is here. They'll have to put that trophy back up for grabs, see if they can defend it and move on.
再次欢迎 SKT 战队。谢谢 ，Thank you。接下来，让我们请出的是来自于 LMS 赛区曾4次入围全球总决赛的赤色天马 AHQ。
AHQ Esports Club, no slouches when it comes to experience. This is their 4th consecutive Worlds appearance for this organization and this team.
And with a
接
consistent
下来，让我
roster.
们请出的是北美 LCS 赛区第5次入围全球总决赛的 Cloud9。
Cloud9, the perennial Worlds contenders here from North America. They were the best performing team last year, and they're looking to improve upon it here in 2017.
Sneaking on that streak, but all of them since Season 3.
接下来
So
将要出
consistent.
场的是来自于本土 L 票赛区4次入围全球总决赛、5次 L 票冠军得主 EDG。
And you can hear it in the crowd, the true hometown heroes. Clear Love from Wuhan himself, the most decorated team the LPL has ever seen.
再一次感谢所有 A 组的战队的到来，感谢你们的到来，谢谢 ，Thank you。接下来，让我们请出的是 B 组战队。
Coming into the 2017 Summer Split, Immortal singing a different song.
But it is 1, 2, 3, the coup de grace, and Fnatic are moving on to the groups here at Worlds 2017.
首先有请的是来自于欧洲 LCS 赛区6次入围全球总决赛，并曾斩获首届全球总决赛冠军头衔的 Fnatic。
Former kings of Europe, Fnatic have made their way through plans to make a crash landing here at Worlds.
Reckless knows to hold up the loves, the heart sign as well. He knows how to make the crowd
接着
happy.
让我们欢迎来自于 G 票赛区2次 G 票冠军得主 GEM。
Now, they may not be the favorites of the group, but without a doubt, the Gigabyte Marines, they captured the hearts of fans across the world for their performance at MSI, earning the 1st seed for Southeast Asia in the GPL.
紧接着，让我们请出的是代表 LCS 北美赛区首次入围全球总决赛的 Immortals。
Immortals rebuilding from spring, massive improvement with the addition of Smithy in summer. This team has come so far and are looking for world success.
Breaking out the yellow jerseys too. I like
classy.
接下来，让我们欢迎来自于韩国 LCK 赛区夏季赛新科冠军龙珠战队。
2 years in a row, Prey and Gorilla enter Worlds as the first seed, but on a different organization with a different roster. They are now the experienced duo that have to steady these young players with very little international experience.
再一次感谢所有的 B 组战队，感谢你们的到来，谢谢 ，Thank you。 接下来，让我们请出的是 C 组战队。
EU LCS title, G2 Esports are the best team in Europe.
安吉成为 LPL 赛区第1支进入世界总决赛的队伍。哇，让我们恭喜安吉！恭喜安吉！
1907 Fenerbahçe dünyanın en iyi takımlarından biri. 1907 Fenerbahçe dünyanın en iyi 16 takımı arasında.
首先有请的是来自于 L 票赛区2016年全球总决赛8强战队 RNG。
You thought the cheers for Clear Love were going to be loud. It's going to match for Uzi himself. He is the legend of this arena.
接着，让我们欢迎连续夺得最近4届 LCS 欧洲联赛冠军的 G2 战队。
The undisputed kings of Europe, G2, coming off a 2nd place finish at MSI, are looking to extend that dominance to the world stage. and see if they can make something happen.
接下来，让我们欢迎土耳其 TCL 联赛夏季赛新科冠军，从入围赛突出重围的1907费内巴切。
The Turkish representative also making their way through plans, a surprise upset, but led by Frozen. They are an explosive team and fun to watch.
接下来，我们将要请出的是2016年全球总决赛亚军，来自于 LCK 的三星战队。
Samsung Galaxy once again crushing the dreams of KT Rolster. No super team from them at Worlds this year, and they were runners-up last year. They only have to go one better to finish their mission.
再次感谢所有 C 组战队的到来，谢谢 ，Thank you。紧接着，让我们欢迎 D 组战队出场。
我们也要恭喜2017年夏季总 LMS 的总冠军闪电狼 Flash Wolf。
TSM cement themselves as the greatest team North America has ever seen, and they are once again your North American champions!
The damage is real, and that is going to be the Misfits. And for this team, things are looking oh so good.
所以这时候就是让我们恭喜 WE 可以拿下了这把6-5以3比0。
首先，让我们欢迎7次全勤入围全球总决赛，来自于北美 LCS 的 TSM。
The undisputed greatest North American team of all time, looking for that world success to cement themselves as legends.
紧接着，让我们有请4次制霸 LMS 赛区，曾在2015年入围全球总决赛8强的闪电狼战队。
Consistent greatness for TSM, consistent greatness for Flash Wolves. 4 LMS split wins in a row. They're back again, and they're looking to improve on last year's.
接着，让我们欢迎来自欧洲 LCS 赛区首次来到全球总决赛舞台的 Misfits.
Now this is the surprise team out of the European region, from challenger to the 2nd seed at Worlds in just 1 year.
紧接着，让我们请出的是来自于本土 LPL 赛区的传统豪门，欢迎 TWE。
It's been 5 years since the prodigal sons of China have disappeared from the world spotlight, but they finally returned, and the crowd welcomes them.
再次欢迎所有 D 组战队的到来，谢谢 ，Thank you。 英雄志逐传奇，2017英雄联盟全球总决赛现在开始。
Those are the 16 teams looking to make their case for best in the world this year at the League of Legends World Championships in 2017. Hello, everyone. I'm James Dash Patterson, joined by Indiana Frosker in black, Chris Papa Smithy Smith, and Isaac Azale Cummings Bentley. It's been 12 months, a full calendar year, and we're back looking for our next legend. How excited are you guys?
I'm back on my home turf. I'm just welcoming you guys at this point.
It's like a kid in a candy shop, man. I mean, it's the beginning of the group stage. So excited to be here.
I mean, the crowd certainly has their favorites, but there's going to be new stars, new favorites built. It's the first day, but there's going to be so much after this.
And of course, we are also joined by some of our international broadcast partners. We have friends from China, of course, as well as the CB Lull joining us. Going to get a look at some of their stations here as we're trying to bring this truly global event to the entirety of the world. All of these regions looking to make their mark on the world stage. Now, before we take a look at the teams, let's remind everyone of the format here at Worlds 2017. The teams will play 6 matches during the group stage, going up against their group opponents in a double round robin. From there, the top 2 teams from each group will advance to the knockout stage, where a win in a best-of-5 series qualifies you for the next round.
And we're already in the thick of it. We've been 2 weeks into the play-in stage. We've got 4 teams that advanced to the group stage, so we went from top 24 to top 16.
There you have it, top 16. Let's break down the strength of our competitors, starting with Group A, which features 4 teams with a long history in this tournament specifically.
And that's the crazy thing. You can see it on the screen. We're talking 3 minimum appearances for each of these teams. They often fit in each other's groups very often. We've seen these matchups before, but now we get to see it with a whole new meta and a whole new crowd.
And anytime you're talking about a group with the 3-time world champions, you have to talk about SKT. This team is unrivaled in League of Legends history, and I think it's going to be a race for second place behind them.
I mean, that said, I do want to give SKT a lot of their credit, but they didn't come out of champions as the #1 seed. There are some cracks in the armor right there, and maybe this group can start to pave away a blueprint to how that can be exploited in the future.
Of course, we take a look at Group B. There's a lot of exciting matchups to look forward to, specifically in the top lane. Of course, eyes go straight to Longzhu's Khan in the top lane.
I mean, you have to, right? That's the big story this year has been, specifically summer season, because remember, it wasn't even the entire year. Khan has come on super strong, taken on all comers. Korea has famously been known for their top lane strength since the days of Mark Noon and Impact many years ago. And now here in Korea, we have Khan, who has been dominant. You can see his stats on the screen. But to me, the big thing about Khan is he started the split well, but so many younger players or so many newer players to the LCK stage have made a good debut. But I think, like everyone, you're like, okay, when are the wheels going to fall off? He's facing Smeb now. He's facing Cuvée now. When is he still going to come back to earth? It never happened. Khan only got stronger.
And I think the most amazing part about it is he's doing it making his own meta. He's playing carry tops in a world where almost everyone is on tanks, and he's kind of enforcing his will on his opponents.
I mean, we're effectively watching the rise or the possible ascension of another superstar. You know, he took down Faker once. Can he do it again? But there's no slouch in other competition. He's going to have to face across from Flame and Soaz in this group.
Now, of course, being the #1 seed from Korea, a lot of people will look at them to top the group. And so looking at the other 3 teams as they fill out, we of course got Immortals from the North American LCS and Fnatic, a very experienced team when it comes to the world stage. And then the surprise in Gigabyte Marines from MSI. I mean, these guys came in and excited everyone with their style and their vigor.
I talk a lot to the Gigabyte Marines coach. My favorite quote from him is, you don't need knowledge if you have imagination. So if that sets you up to any type of table that the Gigabyte Marines are going to turn over, like, prepare yourselves.
And if Longzhu has a key player in Khan, you have to look at the Gigabyte Marines and talk about Levi. This guy has similar stats to Khan in his role being a standout. And one team we've got builds around their top laner. It's insane in this meta to build around your jungler as well, and yet Gigabyte Marines have made it work.
Of course, you know, Fnatic from the EU LCS, they made it through in the play-ins, did drop a game there, but with the experience that they have, we've heard Reckless talk about what he expects of himself on the international stage. We'll see if they can make their mark.
And we're already starting to see a diversified style from Fnatic as well. The big strength of them is the fact when they can carry from every single lane. Caps was able to show up, Reckless was consistent, so Fnatic fans should feel good about this.
Pushing ourselves ahead to Group C. Let's take a look at the teams we got here. To me, this is the group that has no clear favorites.
And it's such a tough group. I mean, this is the position for G2 that TSM was in last time. They did not make it out, and 4 of the 6 times where there has been a Korean and a Chinese team in a group together, they are the ones to make it out. So G2, best team from Europe, they are in tough in Group C.
And you have RNG and Samsung there. They were in the group of death, Group D, last year. But the thing to take away is you also have 1907 and Fenerbahce, who are in this spot where when you're playing against this team, if you drop even a single game, given how strong and how close we expect the heads-to-heads to be for the other 3 teams, you drop a single game and you might be kissing goodbye your chance to make the quarters.
That tiny margin of error. There's also the huge stylistic mismatch. You know, you have G2, Samsung, and even Fenerbahce to an extent where they kind of play a patient, methodical, calculated play style, and then you've got the sprinters in RNG just trying to blast off the finish line.
And let's not forget, we talk about accolades. We talk about the 3-time champs in SK Telecom T1, but in this group, we have the runners-up of last year's Worlds in Samsung Galaxy and the runners-up at MSI. So the 2 next most decorated teams within the last calendar year are sitting here in Group C. Let's push ahead to the final group, though, in Group D, where we have the LPL's Team WE looking to build on their performance from that play-in stage.
I mean, for me, this is kind of the group of dark horses. We don't really know what form we're going to get from Flash Wolves, what form we're going to get from Misfits. Team WE had a very slow start in play-on, so maybe looking shaky there, and it really just looks like paved gold for TSM.
And I mean, for TSM, for North American fans, you have to feel if there's a group for them to get out, this is the one. People are expecting them not only to get through, but they're expecting dominance. That is what people want from this team who, you know, failed last year in Worlds, didn't get out of groups. It's the same team back again. They have accrued more international experience, and they're looking to show what they have.
Yeah, my heart dropped for a moment there when you said paved gold. As the NA fans, I'm like, don't jinx us right now. Papa Smithy, though, what's your
low
take
expectations
here on Group D? Exactly, low expectations.
I mean, I was there at the group draw show, and this was very instantly talked about as the group of life. But as I've had time to ruminate and hear about what's happening and look at where the meta is going, I'm not convinced that, say, Flash Wolves, for example, won't pose a pretty significant threat in this group. I think Misfits also could take games, so I think the guaranteed win for TSM that people thought was their initial gut reaction might change.
Again, you talked about Immortals, right? The rebuilding of the roster from spring to summer and qualifying for Worlds Misfits. The EU organization that's done a similar thing from Challenger to Worlds in just a year or so. This is the team that, you know, for me, I'm wondering what their inexperience, rather, on the world stage will amount to, and can they overcome some of those obstacles that a newer team might run into here on the international stage?
They've been learning incredibly fast. We'll see if they can take that to the world stage and really develop.
All right, well, as we round out the groups discussion, let's check out some players that we expect will leave their mark on the group stage. Here is our Best of the Rift, brought to you by T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. We have Longzhu's Khan, C9 Contracts, RNG Xiaohu, as well as some familiar faces in Reckless and Sword Art of Fnatic and the Flash Wolves.
Yeah, Fnatic's Reckless, a huge fan favorite in Europe. He is the Summer Split MVP and has an insane amount of regional dominance there.
I mean, I'm going to stick to Unsung Hero Sword Art, though. I know everyone is tired of hearing Maple Car, so we've touted their story all over this desk. Sword Art is the true carry of Flash Wolves this split. He is having an unreal summer.
Those are the familiar faces. Let's talk about some of the unfamiliar. Papa Smithy?
I mean, Khan is really the word that was on everyone's lips when you were watching the LCK this year. Your eyes were glued to the top laner of Longzhu, and his consistency to play carries upon carries, to have a team with Prey and Gorilla build around a new top laner to the LCK. Sure, he played a single split in 2014 on Prime Optimus, but he wasn't renowned, certainly, to come back 3 years later and be this dominant force, potentially the player to watch at Worlds. It's amazing.
And the team also deserves a lot of credit for enabling him, for playing around him, controlling vision, showing up for 2v2s, and he really does make it worthwhile. But talking about another player who is newer in his rookie year, Contracts, he was the spring rookie of the split, and he has developed so much from them. He has been improving by leaps and bounds, one of the best junglers from North America, and so important to the style that Cloud9 plays with Jensen and this mid lane focus. He is the guy who is enabling him through vision control, through early visits, and the sky is the limit for this player.
And we really saw that in play-ins. You know, he had his famous Nidalee game. He put up huge numbers of that. But that said, last but not least, it is Xiaohu up in that mid lane. And I just have to emphasize how important this guy. On a roster with Uzi, Xiaohu is the true shining light here. He allows them to play their dominating, defining style of a 1-3-1. He can play the assassins, he can play the control mages. But again, it's about how he opens up the edges of the map and he starts pulling the teams around, creating these opportunities where RNG will find picks, find team fights, find victory.
And his consistency was kind of a counterpoint to how much roster turmoil there was over the course of the year with RNG. So he was the bedrock upon which all their success was built. They didn't quite get over the line in the final, but with the fan support they have here, who knows what could happen.
We will see what these players can do as we kick off the group stage here in Wuhan. From First Blood till the Nexus explodes, you can follow Best of the Rift in more places than ever before. T-Mobile, America's best unlimited network. Now the road to the Summoners Cup continues today with 6 best-of-1, starting with the LPL's Royal Never Give Up, taking on 1907 Fenerbahce. From there, we have one more clash in Group C between Samsung Galaxy and G2 before the teams in Group B and A step on stage for the first time. Looking at these 6 games today, what jumps out to you?
I'm so excited for G2 versus Samsung right off the bat. This is going to tell you so much about that group, which is extremely competitive. If G2 can win out there, the hopes are going to get pretty high.
And I'm a man that looks at history, and SKT versus C9, it happens again. You get the top lane with impact once again.
The clapping round 2.
The clapping in the mid lane, like you say.
No warm-up. You got to go. Well, there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Some games to look forward to over the next few weeks. We're going to see a lot of action and want to know what makes your highlight reel. So hit us up at LOL Esports and send us your big plays using that hashtag Worlds 2017. It's time to get the group stage underway, so let's hand it over to our casters to get us into the day's games. Guys, take it away.
Thank you very much, Dash, and welcome everyone to our first clash in the 2017 Worlds Group Stage. I'm Riving DeBizen III, joined here by Joshua Jat Leesman and the ever-beautiful Martin DeFicio, along to analyze this game. I'm with them every day. It's good to see you, but it's awesome to be back together on the TriCast. Groups continues, or it begins, Worlds continues, and the extravaganza is going to be amazing.
Yeah, I think I speak for all of us when I say it's Worlds, and it brings a certain level of hype to it when you finally get to see the group stage get underway, right? We've seen 12 of these teams who weren't in the play-in stage. The best of the best from all the regions are going to 12 of the teams are playing today.
And we've been sitting here for the last few weeks after the group draw, just thinking about every single group, what outcome, who's going to beat who, which region is overhyped, which region do not talk enough about. Finally, we get the games on the way, and we can actually see how the teams are performing.
And as you know, the wait is almost over. as we are moments away from the first game between Royal Never Give Up and 1907 Fenerbahce. Let's take a look at the starting lineups with RNG. Royal Never Give Up on the blue side. That top lane is going to be Let Me. You'll see MLXG roaming around in the jungle. Mid lane Xiao Hu, AD carry Uzi, support Ming, and coach Firefox.
Yeah, and on the other side of the rift, we have the underdogs in this group. 1907 Fenerbahce. We got Thaldrin in the top lane, Crash in the jungle. The emergency sub had to come in for move. We have Frozen in the mid lane, Patton in bot, and Japone the support.
We'll see what these guys have coming in. They've shown through play-ins. It's going to be tough. 1907 Fenerbahce put on a solid performance in that play-in stage, but they do face some tough opponents, as we see now coming into the next 2 weeks, starting with the second seed from the LPL. It's going to be a good one.
It will be a good one, and I actually think this is a fine start for Fenerbahce because, as you know, the only team who wasn't from one of the big major regions who made it through, they showed like really good individual moments where Patton could shine in late game team fights, Frozen could get ahead in the early game. RNG is the kind of team that will give you these like big sloppy team fights, especially later on. There is a chance for Fenerbahce to take advantages there.
Exactly, and they've already gone through a lot to get here, but that's not to say they aren't huge underdogs in this group. They definitely are. So they got a lot of Baron steals coming through. They need to be able to get to the late game team fights with a close gold lead, and at that point, anything can happen because they have very good players on that team.
And while we talk about 1907 Fenerbahce kind of being newcomers to this world stage, you can't forget that RNG have so much experience in their lineup, and they are however, some of the new faces on the team that made it to the quarterfinals last year.
Obviously, a year ago, we had people like Mata on this lineup. We had Looper as well. They are gone. They have not been with RNG for a full year. They're obviously playing in LCK on KT side for Mata. And Looper is over in North America with you guys. But on this team instead now, you have Ming and Let Me. Ming down in the support role is one of my favorite players to watch in the LPL right now. He's still such a young player, but he's aggressive in his playstyle with Uzi. He's fantastic in team fights on these different tanks he can play. And I really want to see him and Uzi on this big stage here because we know Uzi will show up. Ming needs to follow him and make sure they can win that 2v2 bot lane.
Yeah, and it's so interesting as well. I want to emphasize that this is an all-Chinese roster here for RNG because after almost every LPL team took on Korean imports several years ago, they have decided against it for the communication and the team play.
And now we also have this RNG lineup where we will talk a lot about Uzi. We just talked about Ming, but we need to talk about Xiao Hu in the mid lane. Like, he was the highest rated Chinese player on our top 20 list coming into this tournament here. He's become a superstar for RNG.
Yeah, as an individual contributor, he was the MVP of the LPL. So this guy has been performing on such a high level. Uzi is the star. He's the fan favorite. He's the one everyone looks to, but it's very much a two-carry game. And they have two of the best carries, which is part of why they are so successful.
I think what it comes to my mind is the way Deft and Pawn used to work. One would be heavy in the early game, the other would fly under the radar, and then you kind of come into late game. It's kind of what Uzi can do on late game AD carry scaling, and Xiao Hu can do pretty much throughout the game is what he's shown this season.
And when you have two like superstar carries, you obviously need a lot of players around them to help these carries. You can't just have 5 players who all want to win the game on their own. So when you have Ming, you have Let Me, like their job together with MLXG, the jungler, is to get Uzi and Xiao Hu ahead. MLXG is the kind of jungler who will sacrifice himself, skip jungle camps to just play super aggressive in the early game. Gank, gank, gank. Level 2, he's in the mid lane. Level 3, he's in the bot lane. Level 4, he's back in the mid lane. And you don't even know what's happening. He's just constantly being aggressive.
Yeah, and I love watching MLXG and tracking him in the early game because
so many questions.
He puts more emphasis on getting first blood at all costs than any other jungler. And he's very good at it. He has a higher first blood percentage than any other jungler at Worlds. So it is on Crash to try and help the team know where he is. But that's going to be a problem for Fenerbahce because Crash doesn't speak the same language as this team. They have communication issues since they've had to use him as the substitute right here. So that's even more in the advantage of MLXG to create chaos in the early game.
And before Fenerbahce played with Crash, they obviously had Move in the jungle, and it was very focused on going to the late game. Don't make too many risky plays early on. They had to change that style during play-ins, and against RNG, they will not be allowed to try and just go late game. They will have to try and match early on. that's a big concern as well. Patton in the laning phase is not the strongest. Good late game team fights, we got to give him that credit, but he's playing against Uzi and Ming down in that bottom lane, and you can't fall too far behind.
Nope, we also see that a lot of what Fenerbahce's wins come from was those Barons, getting 4 steals within the stages of play-in to kind of get themselves escalated to this point. That's not going to happen as much as 4 times here in the group stage.
Man, let me tell you, there were way too many Baron steals in the play-in stage from what I feel like
stole them,
Jungler
stole them.
But with that being said, there's a lot of stuff that can spike Baron very hard right now with Cho'Gath in the game, Callistus in the game. It gets very volatile in that area. But here we go, first pick and ban of World's group stage.
And we will see junglers hit up right in the beginning, Callista as well. Expect to see that throughout Worlds on that ban bench.
Yeah, exactly. Like, each role right now, except for mid lane, have 2 to 3 picks that everyone is looking at. Mid lane is very open. There's a lot of different things you can play, but in the jungle, you look at Gragas, Sejuani, Jarvan in almost every single game. And AD carry, Callista has to be banned.
And the added element in this matchup as well is that Fenerbahce has already played a bunch of games in play-in, so Royal Never Give Up has seen exactly what their preferences are on this patch. The most apparent preference was Crash on Gragas. Sejuani has been mostly permabanned. Gragas is what has been picked by Crash almost every time, and since RNG has first pick, they forced Fenerbahce to ban Sejuani.
And now I want to see if RNG wants to play Ardent Sensor meta, because Lulu, Janna are super, super popular here among the pro teams. Go for late game and just rely on your AD carry to win the games is something we will see very often. Both Lulu, Janna are available in this draft, but RNG are going with the Rek'Sai first pick. This is definitely not something you guys will see from a lot of teams, and it's very specific now for RNG and MLXG here in the first game of the group stages.
A lot of junglers don't even have Rek'Sai within the past few weeks to 3-4 a month in their game, so very interesting there. Thaldrun picks up the Lulu, a possible Nidalee there. Crash having some decent mechanics on these types of champions, but it's still a risky pick.
Yeah, it's very required to do well in the early game here for Crash, but at the same time, 1907 Fenerbahce has had more success allowing Crash to play his style, and that is something that Nidalee is definitely capable of doing.
And the smart thing we see here as well...
Does that answer your question, Deficio?
We do get Ardent Sensor here from RNG. Same thing over for 1907 Fenerbahce. Taking Lulu above Janna is the smart choice, because Lulu can beat Janna in the laning phase and still have the Ardent Sensor for late game. That's why they're going for that choice. We get full-on late game, though, from RNG's bottom lane now.
Exactly. Tristana still on the table, but they opt for the Kog'Maw, and this is a very LPL preference. Kog'Maw is more highly valued in the LPL than it is in probably any other region, so we get to see them building already around the shields, Ardent Sensor, and Uzi's Kog'Maw.
And we should see a lot more of that from other teams as well, because in a team fighting meta where you buff up the AD carry, having a hyper carry that can shred tanks, well, that will obviously be super valuable, because when you have Ardent Sensor supports fighting each other, both team comps are focused on killing the tank from each team. Well, who wins? Probably the hyper carry who has percentage damage.
The Tristana being locked in. 1907 Fenerbahce getting a bit of demolition damage in there. If they do get a good early game lead, they can start to take down those turrets. It is going to be hard. RNG looking to set up defense and scale up, protect those turrets and keep the laning phase a little longer. Final ban's coming out pretty tanky from Fenerbahce. 1907 Fenerbahce, they don't want to be engaged on. And now we see the Taliyah. What else? Possibly another mid laner.
Well, it's very interesting how mid lane at the moment actually has so many blind pickable champions. A lot of matchups are kind of 50-50 in there, so you can go for your blind pick mid here for Frozen and then last pick for Thaldrun. However, Thaldrun is more like he's playing a lot of different tanks. Going for something like a Maokai blind and then actually let Frozen last pick. We know he can play things like Echo, might be more valuable for 1907 Fenerbahce.
Yeah, we did see Thaldrun look his best on Maokai, so that is the pick for 1907 Fenerbahce. And the question for RNG now is, how do they round out the rest of their team composition? They get the blind pick mid, so to speak, with Syndra still being on the table, has been the highest priority mid laner on this patch at Worlds Play.
Yeah, LeBlanc is also available. Like, so few things will actually kill you in lane then, and you get quite a lot of pressure from that side with Xiaohu, and you have already Rek'Sai to gank with. So LeBlanc would definitely work for RNG as well. But yeah, you said Syndra, Orianna is a thing as well. Taliyah's banning this again. Oh, okay. We get a blind rise here.
So I love Rise on this patch, specifically when you're building Abyssal Mask. As long as you're not dying before you can build the magic resist, you can start controlling that lane. And additionally, we talk a lot about why Rise can particularly be good in pro play. It's for the reliability. You get your root onto the enemy mid laner as the Rek'Sai is coming in, and you can manufacture plays. That's why we see Frozen picking Cleanse, but we talk about Xiaohu so much being the MVP of the LPL. And RNG has built a composition around their strengths. Uzi on the Kog'Maw with a bunch of protection, and also Rek'Sai to help camp mid lane for Rise.
Yeah, 1907 near Fenerbahce, they have to win the bottom lane. Lulu Tristana is a very good early lane. They need to pressure the Janna and then have Crash play around that lane with the Nidalee. See if they can snowball against Uzi and Ming. Winning mid lane will be difficult. Winning top lane with the Maokai is not really going to happen. It's on Patton down in that bottom lane with Tristana to do well early on.
Interestingly enough, Ming bringing in his first competitive play, Janna. I know through the summer, I believe through the spring as well, since it wasn't even really seen there. So obviously playing it, but bringing it out on the table for the first time with Uzi here in the group stage. Going to be very interesting how they go lane to lane with Patton and Japone. Heading into the game, hashtag RNG win, hashtag FB win for 1907 Fenerbahce. And we're about to see how the team, screaming through play-ins, is going to be able to do on the big international stage.
Yeah, it's just about to take off, and I can't wait to see a couple of things here in the early game, specifically how the bottom lane will do, Uzi versus Patton with the giant CS discrepancies, but also, will MLXG manufacture First Blood once again? RNG gets it in 70% of their games. Additionally, with the Rek'Sai, it is very good at the early game.
Yes, this is exactly why a team like RNG can first pick that Rek'Sai, because it gives early pressure. Late game is not great from a Rek'Sai, you just a meat shield, but early on, good clear into very good early ganks.
Yeah, another thing to point out about the draft phase as we get in. For 1907 Fenerbahce, everyone except Crash actually has their most played champion from Worlds playing. So as much as RNG gets to scout them, they did scout them, say we've seen the best you've got, and they don't care if they give it to them because RNG thinks they can beat them.
Another thing also to highlight with the level 1 items is Relic Shield on Patton. Now we have seen this, you know, in the last few months from different AD carries. Often when I see Ardent Sensor supports versus each other, both AD carries actually go for Relic Shield because you do not want to fall behind in the race for completing Ardent Sensor. This one will go in favor of Fenerbahce with that Relic Shield.
It's an arms race of who can get there, specifically when the bottom lanes are going barrier heal. And I really want to see how Uzi plays in this metagame because he's a guy who will push you into the turret and threaten kills so often, but they haven't taken a bottom lane that can do that, and then they haven't built the items to reach that arms race. So they're, in a sense, going to have to use that health advantage from the Dorn Shield to try and get that going. But Fenerbahce going for an invade, trying to shake things up.
They feel they need to make something happen early if they can get the upper hand here. Glitter lands through the entire team. MLXG flashing forward. Already took damage from before. One more shot. First Blood gonna come in. It goes to Crash on his jungle Nidalee.
What a smart invade here. No vision from RNG being placed, and they get surprised by how many members show up. Jamula gotta be careful.
Gotta be careful. This extends into the laning phase. They may not be able to purchase here, but let's see how they started off.
Well, we had the First Blood question. That's been answered, and it did not go to RNG. Crash getting that first kill on Nidalee could have some huge implications coming through in this game. He doesn't have the large experience advantage because they didn't actually steal the buff, but they did get that First Blood goal, which would impact him on his first recall.
Exactly. It's about the goal for him because MLXG will make it back here. We see the blue buff being killed by Crash in just a few seconds, but he's not too far ahead in terms of the clear speed at the moment.
Yeah, I think he'll get there, though. We know Nidalee clears faster than the Rek'Sai. But to talk about that First Blood play one more time, you have to call out RNG a little bit for either not having the right forward wards or not having the proper scouting because they got over-invaded there 3 versus 4.
There's also a move I was wondering if it mattered. When MLXG took that hit, Xiaohu routed up to stand where MLXG was, meaning Rise was farther away from that red engage, and it could have had a different positioning if MLXG hadn't taken that early Nidalee damage.
Good start here for 1907 Fenerbahce. This game, though, when RNG is drafted, the Cho'Gath top in top lane, we know they're looking to go late game. They have the Hyper Carrier and Uzi. Like, this RNG team, funny enough, in this game, do not need to snowball early on, despite that being one of their main strengths.
And that was one thing that we actually saw from a different LPL team in the play-in, Team W, picking very late-game compositions against a lot of the emerging region teams. And although it was very shaky in some games, they did win every single one.
Look at this one.
Sees Crash is very low, no flashes up on either side.
Very close. MLXG knowing with the lane push, with Xiaohu coming back, they can get in the face of Crash, and they need to figure out where he is to slow him down, doing just that.
And at this point here, Crash is only slightly ahead in experience of MLXG. Might see another fight here on the top side.
MLXG undeterred by the first blood because he knows Crash hasn't shot yet, so it actually doesn't matter as far as this movement goes, and he has the health advantage.
Friendly farming.
Yeah, some friendly farming as Thaldrin is in lane with full health, so can't get too crazy if you're MLXG.
You can easily tunnel away, that's why there's no real aggression towards him. Let me with a good push on his. And they may be able to dip into the jungle here if he finds Crash once more. MLXG is just being a nuisance so well right now to Crash's jungle.
We have to remember there are still camps for MLXG to kill on his side.
Yeah.
Blue buff is there, Grump is there, the Croc's down in the bottom. Nothing on top side, so Crash needs to go back to base. MLXG can go back to farming. He's gonna be happy enough.
Yeah, you can see RNG trying to get control back into this game where they're massive favorites by getting those deep wards, but they didn't manufacture any plays, and those deep wards have already expired. So really, it's just more good news for the early game of 1907 Fenerbahce.
Aggression from Uzi. Seems like they wanted to get some damage on. They definitely have the health advantage. They could go for a head-to-head a little bit. Crash is heading down towards the bot side to finally uneven the CS in this lane. We'll see if he can do it.
This is a really smart gank by Crash.
One hit, dodges the spear. Nice job by Uzi. Steady mind as he goes into this fight. Knows Ming's there to help him. Low on mana, but they're still going to go for the fight as they see Fenerbahce lower.
Yeah, it was a really smart gank by Crash because the probability of a counter gank was extremely low, knowing how long MLXG had spent in the top side jungle and would probably go back to clear his blue side. However, the execution is what faltered. They didn't have any polymorph or pre-CC to help the spear land. The spear also missed, and they actually ended up losing that actual health trade in 2v3.
Luckily for Crash, he was just also kind of waiting for his camps to respawn. He was like, I have nothing to do on the map. I guess I'm just ganking something, hoping he could force a summoner, but he's back now. He's once again clearing everything. MLXG not been able to find any early ganks. As we said, before the game started, this is the kind of jungler who can go for level 2 ganks, then level 3, then level 4, skip camps to just get his lanes ahead. In this game here, because they have so much scaling on their side, he does not feel forced to do it, and he's actually just right now playing a very standard jungle game and not looking to be over-aggressive.
Nice denial there to Xiaohu. His ward goes to waste for the moment, but it could be coming right back at Crash as they have seen he's placed one there and is on the bottom side of the map. MLXG hunting down the bottom side of his Raptors before he heads back towards that top. We still haven't seen Thaldrin and Let Me in really any action, as that's probably what's going to happen for a while. These guys just farming it out until we get the teleports in.
Yeah, that's the classic let me game. Is I'm setting top lane and farming, and you guys are playing on the other side.
Farm.
Yeah, just let me farm. MLXG is around mid. There's cleanse for Frozen, and he's very close to his tower, but obviously just getting a summon spell is a small win that could later on give a big advantage.
Yeah, all RNG need to do actually is get the summoner spell out if they then want to go for kill, but he's got to be a little careful. Doesn't have magic resist yet.
Oh, he actually gets pulled into the fight. Flashes on both sides to get himself the safety. Sorry, just the heal from Xiaohu.
Yeah, and no cleanse out of Frozen, so he still has that as the next level of gank avoidance. Also have to note with Let Me trying to play this farm to 6 game, Mercury Treads makes it harder to combo a Nidalee gank with the Maokai. So still looking to play that lane very conservatively and discredit the gank a little bit.
Simply because if Maokai obviously snares the Cho'Gath and you fire a long-range spear, well then Tenacity will kick in, you get out of it fast, and you can dodge the spear.
And it's a fairly classic combo from the last time we saw Nidalee far in meta, is the Maokai and Nidalee would be a carry lane, so to speak, for the Nidalee. The Maokai literally just set up the Nid to get a whole bunch of kills, and I think that's what Fenerbahce would like to do, but the Mercury Treads make that much more difficult.
Down here in the bottom lane, we mentioned how this Lulu Tristana lane could be very, very strong for Fenerbahce, but we also got to factor in the individual skill. And obviously, Uzi Ming will be a stronger 2v2 lane just based on the players, and they are able to go completely even in farm here. Uzi's not getting shut down at all.
Right.
Yeah. Have to note that at the level 1 engagement, Ming did burn heals, so it did have RNG play a little bit more defensive. But as far as expectations, pre-game to what's happening now, this bottom lane is performing way above the expectations. Looking at the CSDs in the group stage as they go for another game.
Frozen makes his way down. Remember, Cleanse is still there if he wants to bait it in for Crash. Has to try and get it below the minions. They could still get the kill. Crash comes up with another one. Xiaohu standing tall to see if he can get the bounce for the kill, but it's not going to be enough damage. He's just doing what he can. However, Japone now coming into mid lane as Ming enters the fight as well.
That's another one.
Spear is hitting left and right, but I don't know if he's got enough for the dive. They back off of this.
Yeah, Crash will land all the spears on the non-stun targets, but it just goes to show how far ahead on the play 1907 Fenerbahce was. They can miss that spear and still get the kill.
We have to remember as well, MLXG did trade his flash before, even actually after. Oh, sorry, Frozen flashed earlier, right. Then MLXG follow flashed and did not manage to get a knock-up and ends up re-ganking the lane anyway, and suddenly counter-gank happens. Fenerbahce, great reaction. Support is there, jungler is there. This is the play we've seen before, a good dodge from Frozen, and already now, MLXG, he's in a bad spot.
I mean, he unburrowed early without getting the knockup. That was mistake one, and then the flash forward to try and execute does get that knockup after the spear misses, but the damage had already been done. This was a lost 2v2 from the get-go when the counter-gank arrived after the knockup didn't land from MLXG.
It's also what we mentioned with RNG, sometimes having these fairly sloppy games where it is a lot of action and mistakes will happen. It is something Fenerbahce are taking advantage of.
Yeah, and we heard Reckless say it in the piece right before the show that Worlds isn't about what your regular season was. It's about how you perform at Worlds, and that's a mantra that Fenerbahce has and needs to have here, because yes, we can look at this group and say it's a race between Samsung, RNG, and G2, but if you come to play, it can be a group about you as well. So Fenerbahce have started with a great early, a long ways to go, but this is how they want to start.
Very nice always to go back and get a BF sword on your first back as Tristana. With your ulti as well, you actually have quite a lot of burst. Sadly, he's against a shield and a barrier and a heal, so he probably should not get a kill in this bottom lane, but it's good for some trades. Look as well what MLXG is doing here. Skirmishers on this Rek'Sai, and he's going for Warrior Enchant. So because there's so much AP damage on RNG, he's trying to be the AD threat. But it means he's not going to have a lot of wards because he's not going for Tracker's Knife, and this will hurt RNG's vision.
I mean, you can see it already at the mini-map with how many wards are littered in the river for Fenerbahce up on the top side. They have control of that, and we were talking about that bottom lane before, how Patton would be expected to get blasted in this lane by Uzi, but it's the defensive line on both sides. It's not really what you would expect as Uzi's wheelhouse, and lo and behold, Patton actually had a CS advantage at 10 here against Uzi, who's potentially one of the best laners the world has ever seen.
Fenerbahce used the matchup to their favor here, but when you're also playing Ardent Sensor supports, remember everyone, you do not go Sidestone early. You rush the Ardent Sensor as fast as possible, so you're not bringing a lot of wards as a support in the early game. Your jungler is building skirmishers in this game as well. Like, you only have your trinket wards and control wards.
And Deficio, how is RNG going to make any plays without any wards? They didn't go Tracker's Knife on the jungler, and they're rushing Ardent Sensor on the support. The support one is expected, the challenging spike not so much, so it is extremely difficult for RNG to make a play happen because they're running in blind.
Also, I always like to take a look at what item of the Ardent Sensor comes first. Actually, focused quite quickly after for Ming was that idol, but he did get the Aether Wisp first. A little bit of movement speed, but he gets that shield power back in. Ming coming through. Remember, there's a flash and the cleanse now for Frozen, but he is going down fast. They finally answer back in the mid lane. MLXG and Xiaohu come up.
I mean, there's some serious damage from MLXG now on this Rek'Sai. We are still early on in the game. People will not have armor just yet to defend against him. So he finally gets that kill in the mid lane against Frozen. Third time he tried.
Yeah, from the looks of it, RNG really want to get Xiaohu going, and now that they have Cleanse down, they're going to continue to try and play through this mid lane. Crash trying to defend the church. There's the flash.
A little too close for comfort. MLXG over the wall, and it's Xiaohu going to be storm surging through with the damage. A kill onto Crash. He has 2 kills, but now goes down. Fight onto Uzi. Beautiful shield and heal from Ming.
And MLXG's on the way to the bottom lane. He can tunnel over the wall here.
He's going to have a long way to fight, though.
All summoners up.
Just saying hello.
Man, could not follow through on that one, but Uzi very healthy after all of that fighting has occurred because the ultimate from Ming healed them up high. This mid lane, though, Fenerbahce is trying to regain control.
Oh, Unleash, not enough power. Can he get forward? He cannot. Xiaohu makes that alive and knows that ult is now down in the mid lane for a summonerless Frozen
and
Syndra.
Flash.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the key thing now. No flash from Frozen against MLXG's Rek'Sai. We already saw what happened before here when he went for this gank and Frozen actually had flash available. That wasn't enough because there's so much damage he couldn't even get to use it.
Yeah,
see the mid lane?
Still no flash on Crash, so Xiaohu with the flash lockdown on the Rune Prison. That's the reliability of Rise that Fenerbahce need to find a way to defend against, and they have been doing such a good job of it for the first 11.5 minutes before that happened, but they have to hope that it isn't rolling now for RNG.
And we've just seen a clear game plan from MLXG side, like farm early on and then look towards mid lane where you have a Rise with his instant CC against the Syndra. That's the lane you're camping. Don't go down to Uzi just yet. Let him just farm. Same for Cho'Gath in top lane. Play around Xiaohu in that mid lane. It's been working now after a shaky start, but he's now been getting some kills.
Start to focus. You know, as we said, that ultimate down for Frozen with his summoners. It's a little bit easier for Rise to stay in a fight as such. Take that damage, a little bit healthier for the worse for the wear. Crash just behind Frozen in his back pocket, and it looks like MLXG is going to be coming out of base for now. So Xiaohu stands slow in mid, not going to be doing too much aggression. All the CS on the map is very even. It's been these little hits by MLXG and Crash that are turning the tides of the fight, and it's really going to be up to them to keep doing more.
And you see down here in the bottom lane how Patton is able to outtrade Uzi. 1907 Fenerbahce needs to play around this lane here now. They have Ardent Sensor, they have a BF Sword on the Tristana. They need to kill this bot lane tower to start really snowballing the game.
And they barely touched it. And we have talked about how Patton was above expectations for the CS beforehand. They're trying to break it right now. They're sending Syndra down. He's going before Rise. They're going to try and go for it right now. MLXG is here, though.
I see a third. Opening up the map could be the best for them.
There's also ward behind him in the little brush here near the wall. Let.Me is sitting with TP ready in case he needs to join.
The push-up is big, though. Thaldrun can easily stop that with the Twisted Advance as they are toe-to-toe, and it looks like this one fizzles out with just too much rotation from everybody on the map.
Pressure's gone there once again, and we talked so much about the Ardent Sensor race and how the Relic Shield could help Fenerbahce win it, or even how the assist early would have made them win that, but I kept checking the gold, and Ming was right there with him. It's because he's gone for gold generating seals and gold quintessences on the Janna, so such a small amount of laning power on that. It ended up actually giving Ming more gold than Japón got thanks to Patton's Relic Shield. So in a sense, RNG did end up tying, or they would have won that Ardent Sensor race thanks to the rune choice on Janna, but that comes at a cost of not being able to get a big CS lead or play too aggressive in lane.
Time warp forward, and the warp doesn't work that time. Looks like Ming's gonna hang out, get some ward clear, but they know he's down there. A nice ward placed over the wall gives Crash an idea of what's going on. They can kind of walk this one in slowly and do a bit of damage to Ming. Push into Frozen though, so he cannot help here.
Well, the next play is still the same here for 1907 Fenerbahce. It is try and get that bot lane tower down. They got a bit of damage before. Ideally, you can push out your mid lane first so the Syndra can roam before the Rise, and you can actually go down with 4 members to really hit that tower. But that is why MLXG has spent so much time in mid to make sure Frozen can't just freely leave that lane over and over. He's kind of stuck there dealing with the Rise every single time. And MLXG is down here in the bottom lane now, trying to maybe bait Fenerbahce to hit the tower and then try and go for a play.
Yeah, 3's a crowd for sure on that bot lane play. Crash is going to actually find Xiaohu. So bot lane should know the rotation of mid means there is something bad coming down to the bot lane. 1907 Fenerbahce may not be able to make it out in time. A flash from Japón. He says Wild goes forward to help the team disengage, and he does just that. Beautiful in by Thaldrun. He is in the middle of the fight, but is it too far forward as Let.Me's trying to get a bite out of Crime? Gets it with the Vorpal spikes to finish the kill. And now they're going to try to pick up a few more. Finally getting something out of that. RNG could open up the game.
Yeah, essentially trying to counter gank whatever Fenerbahce was doing bottom lane, but then when they see Crash in the mid lane, they think, why don't we just pull off the gank? They slowly teleport in. Not much reliability with that initial engage, but they still generate the kill onto the Maokai, and they get the first turn.
And it was the second time they placed that ward in that rush here, basically saying, we know you're going to push this tower down, and then you will be overextended. RNG reading the one play Fenerbahce could go for, and they punish it. That ward sitting there behind Patton and Japón in the bottom lane is what allows Cho'Gath to actually engage the team fight.
again, Japone had a well-timed flash to get away from the Rek'Sai ultimate, but that also means you then have no flash up against the Cho'Gath Rupture. Dalvin ends up flying in to try and save the day, but he gets low enough that Feast plus Vorpal Spikes end up picking up the kill onto Thraldress. So pretty narrow margins here for RNG, and this is definitely not the type of performance I think you would expect from a team that has been so hyped out of the LPL, but they have started to regain control of this game.
But that's also the very interesting thing about the meta coming into Worlds, where we have more of these Ardent Sensor late game comps. So even teams that are used to playing very focused around early game and really get a big advantage will have to adapt and change that style a little bit. Like, you can't have Uzi win his lane on this hyper carry with a Janna who needs to just sit back and farm. You have to then, of course, change a little bit in how you're playing. Now he has a Rage Play completed, he has full ranks in his W, so Uzi is going to deal some serious damage already at this point.
Yeah, and a deprioritization of Dragon there for RNG ends up netting them a full turret for 0 plus the Rift Herald. We'll have to see whether that costs them later. They're basically banking on this not going into an Elder Dragon type game and trying to win before that.
I love the call. I think getting down early towers is so much more valuable when you have scaling champions that need the gold for items. It's a Cloud Drake as well you're giving away, won't affect the scaling on Fenerbahce's side, so this was definitely a win for RNG. They just need to get down this mid lane tower now, so Frozen on this Syndra never feels safe in lane because LMHT can always gank him.
Yeah, and that kind of going in blind early game that RNG suffered through with the challenging Smite and the Ardent Sensor Rush is over now. Look at the number of control wards they're purchasing, 3 in the inventory of Xiaohu, as well as a completely upgraded Ancient Coin so Ming can carry 4 wards. They're starting to get some of that vision back, plus they now have the gold lead and a tower advantage.
It warms my cold heart to see RNG invest in control wars, because when you're VOD reviewing RNG, there's quite some games where the Doran's Blade and the Cole and, you know, these kind of items are sitting above the control wards in priority.
As a play-by-play, sometimes you sigh because it means less fighting. They know where the team is, but for RNG,
maybe more.
Exactly. So that's what we're hoping for as they continue now. Looking for mid lane, it is taken down quite low. Xiaohu's going to take the top side now. They've been moving Uzi around since the Rage Blade is finished. Now he's got the Hurricane, and they're just out to get that last outer turret and move themselves and those wards a little farther forward.
And this point in the game could also be a struggle for 1907 Fenerbahce because of their potential communication issues. The team played most of the split using basic English between the two of them, but now with Crash in this game right here, that gets even a little bit harder, so Frozen has to act as a bit of a translator for him here. So essentially, they're a half step slow on any big macro plays they're trying to pull off, and even though in past years you have talked about the Chinese teams not necessarily having that great macro, yeah, they're the ones that have the big advantage right here with the all-Chinese roster, very comfortable in the late game as well throughout the LPL split.
Yeah, we saw also in play-ins from 1907 Fenerbahce that it wasn't due to the beautiful late game rotations they were winning games. Like, it was down to big late game team fights and these like really big carry performances. Baron Steals was definitely in there as well. They're gonna try and find the support here.
Oh, nice flash there. Chupone getting himself to safety. And it looks like the Wild Growth will also keep him a bit healthy, long enough to stay and give a few more whimsies and shields to the team. They're going to try to protect mid, but this becomes much scarier, knowing that ult is down, knowing his summoners are down.
Exactly, he's left me as well with the right to glory.
Just had to scare him off the turret, that's all that was necessary, and they have 1907 Fenerbahce contained right here. They're just threatening enough with their front line and back line. And when we talked about the construction of these team compositions in the draft phase, this is the point of the game that RNG was building towards. The Rage Blade on the Kog'Maw, as well as the Ardent Sensor Janna, and the front to back nature of these team fights with tanks in front and the damage dealers trying to burn through the tanks. RNG's team composition does that better, which is why 1907 Fenerbahce is ceding so much ground.
Exactly, like, we do not have really tanky junglers in this game like we normally would see with these kind of drafts, because there's an Italy on one side and then this full 80 Rex on the other one. But the Cho'Gath versus the Maokai, they're both very tanky here, but the extra % damage for Uzi, the Rage Blade is going to stack up so quickly with the Hurricane and everything, and their shield is getting the Ardent Sensor. Like, it just makes him such a massive carry. Crash is not going to stop him. Frozen can't one-shot him because of Janna being next to him and the barrier. It gets really difficult for Fenerbahce unless Patton can actually kill this Cho'Gath first.
And there is a world where this game goes to 45 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like a 6-item Tristana actually has better multipliers than a Kog'Maw who's gone with these somewhat on-hit builds. And then you take into effect that the Nidalee can also increase the attack speed even more of the Trist. And you could see Patton getting some insane team fights like he did in the play-in, where he had 25 more kills than the next closest player in the play-in stage. His team fighting was spectacular in a lot of cases. It's just going to be really difficult for them to get to that point, as RNG holds a lot of advantages right now.
Those are also going to be some big heals from Crash with that Athene's coming out. The AD carry is going to have a little more weight put on them here. It was about the junglers in the early game of MLXG and Crash, but now it starts to go more across the board as the map has spread out. Patton getting himself to safety as he does not have time to mess around in mid lane by himself. The 1907 Fenerbahce is a little too spread out right now, feeling good.
But we do see that RNG are not running like a ton of hard engage, so despite finding the AD carry in the mid lane, they can't actually force the fight onto him. Like, he just jumps away, uses his ult, didn't have to use flash. RNG will have to bait around objectives, Baron being the big one, and that's what you can do with these comps that are lacking the easy hard engage, because you still have options to Righteous Glory in, TP from behind with a Cho'Gath, and otherwise just take the Baron.
Exactly, and they don't have to worry as much about Baron steals, even though they can definitely happen, because RNG has the Cho'Gath, who has a larger true damage spike than anyone else is capable of in this game, so that makes it a slightly more reliable force if they choose to play around that and continue to try and choke out the vision with all of their control points.
Uzi purchase as well. Is going for something that he can stay alive, something he can be a star in as well. That Quicksilver Sash, very quick coming out as his third item. And he says, you know, I have a lot of safety, but I also want to be able to play like an all-star if I have to.
Yeah, I think the main reason he's going for it here is not like because he's so afraid of a Maokai CC. It's also the fact there's so much magic damage on Fenerbahce's side.
As well.
It generally just is a good defensive buy for him because he knows he has enough damage. And he just needs a little bit more tankiness. Basically, Frozen is going to try and combo him every time.
Yeah, Uzi always feels his ability to outplay with QSS will trump anything else. I think from a math perspective, the Wit's End would have been the correct choice here because he would have gotten the magic resist, has the protection of the Janna, and then also would have done more damage. But you can definitely understand the logic of wanting to QSS out of a Syndra stun or a Maokai route to make sure he doesn't get hit by the follow-up CC.
Double bonus.
Let me getting bigger and bigger here. We saw that RNG's longest average game time here out of groups being around 37 minutes. That's great for a Cho'Gath. I mean, we said the Tristana will get big, but he is going to get big up to that point where she can shred him down, and Let Me can start chewing down on Thaldrin. There's not much health in the rest of the members of 1907 Fenerbahce to be in that fight.
I really want to see MLXG get some tanky items now, though. Like, he's so squishy in the front, and none of these team fights are about bursting someone super quickly. Like, you won't get to these carries easily, so fights will be a little bit longer. And based on AD carries getting a lot of auto attacks off, this Rek'Sai will only add value when he jumps in first, does a bit of burst damage, and then he's going to die pretty quickly.
Do you consider Guardian Angel a defensive item?
I do, yeah.
That's what's next. BF Sword first. I've seen this build a few times. Contracts ended up doing it in the regional qualifier final. And I imagine with the increased priority on Rek'Sai in the draft phase being about the 5th priority jungler, that's common. And there you go, BF Sword first.
First he got the last whisper, was like, no, wait, Jet is calling for the GA. I will sell this, and he's going for the
must get it
quote-unquote tankiness, which of course it does offer some with the armor and the fact
BF Sword's a tank item if you believe in it.
Funny Crash now. It looks like he's going to be building up even more damage. A little penetration is going to be the next item. Void Staff if he decides to finish that up. And Uzi would not last long at this point.
Wow.
With that amount of damage coming in.
All right, Uzi's going
but they got to get to him. That's the whole story of this. That backline, the front line has to get to the back line. It's very hard on both teams with Capone on Lulu, Ming on the Janna. And those guys haven't even really been bringing out the saves just yet. We haven't seen the big fights happen.
I mean, obviously with Uzi now going for Hexdrinker, again, it's the same thing. He's looking at, you know, Maokai damage, Nidalee damage, there's Syndra damage, like so much magic coming in. And those are the guys hitting him. But it's also because no one is building like Locket for him for extra shielding just yet, at least. And he probably feels like, again, he has enough damage, but it does still give Pat more of a chance to become a big hero in the late game, that he will soon have 3 items. And with all these defensive choices, Uzi's damage is not as high as it could be.
Exactly. He's trying to prevent the instance where Frozen stacks up a bunch of Dark Spheres, flashes, presses R on him, and then his barrier isn't enough to keep him alive. Like, that's what he's fearful of. But in going so defensive, I think you actually incur an even larger risk of not being able to kill the front line and getting out carried. Got to see how this plays out, or if RNG can get a pick.
It's the same deal again here where RNG are not running hard engage. So they need to force Fenerbahce to move into this river here and contest the Baron if they want to take a fight. And then LMHT can tunnel over the wall. Let Me can drag Slower in from the side and they can actually start the fight. But right now they're not actually starting the Baron.
Exactly, and it's because they haven't taken deep enough control of the jungle of 1907 Fenerbahce. The control ward that Fenerbahce has at their red buff has been there for the past 5 minutes. And as long as they can walk freely through that brush, they can get wards into the Baron pit and safely check it. And that's the cycle that they have consistently been running for 3 minutes as this game feels very stalled out.
I think at this point you go for the side lanes, you play ring around the Rise, you get them pushed up to at least a second tier, and you realm back to the Baron.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Riv, how they have the Realm Warp that has not been utilized, and you can pull off a bunch of stuff, moving from top turret to Baron to really change the state of the game. They're going to use it to try and kill Frozen.
Flash and flash, there is the Realm Warp, they use it. Frozen goes down, and Uzi gets on the board with a kill. Oh, Chapone. Gonna get chomped down here. Wild Growth is there. Pretty low. Use it to stuff himself up. Oh, the shot coming in. Uzi's gonna get himself another one very fast, and this is that second tier.
Yeah.
They need to start pushing.
And Patton is opting to try and race mid lane. He might be able to trade a turret, but losing control of this side of the map endangers Baron even more because this is exactly the range. From about where Xiaohu is now to Baron pit is the max Realm Warp range, so they have so much more ground to play with when they try and force Baron. But this trade actually isn't ending. They're gonna lose the inhibitor.
Yeah, because Patton is still pushing right now. They know exactly where they're going for more.
If they can take out Thaldrin, this is going to be very bad. The tankiest one of the team is actually going down very fast. As RNG are putting some finishing touches on the top side inhibitor. Looks like they'll exit apps with this as no other lanes are pushed. But what a play.
1907 Fenerbahce actually had very good defensive vision, but if you guys look at the minimap, you will notice that just at the top of where the Janna is now, that's the only place Fenerbahce did not have any wards. That was the one entrance RNG found to surprise Frozen in that top lane and kill him early on. They were actually defending so well until that point, but RNG just snuck their way in. One kill led into 2 kills, and suddenly multiple towers went down, and now they're getting super minions.
Yeah, the mid lane priority will be a little bit more difficult for RNG to get because they lost the turrets there, but I think they're very happy about that trade, and they've hit a lot of item power spikes here that'll make them more comfortable in going for this. You can see LMHT going Frozen, very offensive build. Frozen tries to trade back, but they easily just finish him off. And then, since they'd already lost Syndra, 1907 Fenerbahce decides not to defend their inhibitor, but instead trade the turrets, because I think there's a world in which they defend 4 versus 5. They didn't want to take that. They instead decided to go for the turret.
I think they're also expecting RNG after this tower goes down to just go to Baron. Yeah, back up and go to Baron. Then Patton is in a good position to join a potential fight, but that didn't happen. Bot lane right now, Thaldrin is potentially overextended.
No flash. Just gotta get the knockout.
This is the Bramble Smash on Let Me, which means he's silenced. He's knocked up from the Rupture. He tries to keep him in range long enough, but Let Me is basically healing under the damage of 1907 Fenerbahce.
Twice now where RNG, instead of playing around the Baron itself, are finding 2 members in the side lanes, trying to push out the lanes.
Yep. It's almost a fake out where 1907 Bache is saying we have to get the lanes pushing so they can't go to the objectives, but when RNG could just take the objectives, they're going for the kills instead and going for turrets.
And you call for those Rise ultis. We just saw 2 of them, 1 top lane, now 1 bot lane, bring in more members. They're getting more!
That's big. Let Me just tanking Crash Low. Wild Growth is on. That means Patton doesn't have the save, but he's still trying to step forward. Always seeing Patton trying to make the move, but they may be too far behind now. The second tier going down, finds himself back to the back line, but still, they can't find the damage necessary to slow down RNG.
Yeah, clutch rocket jump there by Patton to time it with the knockup of Rek'Sai and not have that turn into a disaster with 2 lost inhibitors, but they still lost Crash, they've lost the turret, and now RNG, knowing the enemy jungler is down and their Cho'Gath's Feast is up, are going straight for Baron.
Frozen is alive. He's done this before. The Syndra combo will deal more damage than a Smite. But as you said, Jet, not more than Feast and Smite combined.
There it is. Wow, that went down very fast. A very quick back from the Baron empowered RNG. it looks like they'll be back to play very fast. A mid lane and bot lane turret now with objective-free map. Means they can go wherever they want.
Yeah, just giving over the Drakes entirely. They do not care about the Cloud Drake since they are catching people with Realm Warp anyway. And with Void Staff being completed by Xiaohu, I think the game does take another turn. They can kill Thaldrun so fast. Look at how, I mean, he doesn't actually go down that quickly here between the Kog'Maw and the Rise damage, but they still burst him fairly quickly. With the Void Staff, the Rise will be able to shred through him much more easily.
Doesn't end there. You see 1907 Fenerbahce almost kind of pulled into that false sense of security as the minion wave takes a little too long, and then they find their fight.
Welcome back to the Wuhan Sports Center Gymnasium for a fight between G2 Esports from the EULCS and the LCK Samsung Galaxy. Now let's remember that these are our runners-up from last year's World Championships as well as this year's MSI, and both of these teams are going to be looking to start off their group stage right with a win here against a tough opponent. So with all this in mind, we're going to go down the line now. First prediction
of the game, and they get punished for it.
Very quickly though, this game just like suddenly went heavily in favor of RNG. It was actually stalling out, and there were chances Fenerbahce was getting back in the game, but after the kill in top and then now the kill in the bot lane, it feels like RNG have just taken full control over everything, and they will push already for this bot lane tower. If top is still dead.
Kind of looked at what 1907 Fenerbahce would have problems with, and it was that snap judgment macro
stage. So you gotta come out strong and hot here, Frost. We're starting with you. Who's gonna take it?
Unfortunately, I'm gonna start really safe here. I'm gonna go for Samsung Galaxy. Now the thing is to me in poker, this is kind of like a check, and I've got pocket G2s, and I need to just suss out the situation just a little bit more. I need some more information. I need to see the flop. Will the tank meta insulate expect so he's not just blasted by Cuvée? Will the Ardent Sensor continue to kind of make it a wash? Is Perk's current form stronger than Crown's current form? I need all that information before I'm willing to bet on G2.
A lot of questions going even throughout the game. If they weren't the one to be on the top side of that judgment, that snap judgment, then they would fall behind and have trouble getting back
the escape.
Beautifully done by Xiaohu. Throwing the okie doke over to 1907 Fenerbahce, gets himself out, and they're going to head down, up towards the mid lane rather. 35 minutes coming up on the clock, very close to that average time here for Royal Never Give Up as they try to put the damage down onto Thaldrun, but he is just healing back and forth as well from Crash to get those heals in, but it looks like they will stay for the inhibitor.
And right back to full HP with the redemption coming in. They will take this one down as well. RNG are looking very strong at the moment. Uzi is so strong here in the late game, and same for Xiaohu, honestly, so both carries.
There, Pop, but what's your take on these questions being raised?
And that's the thing, it's still the what if. It's why predictions are so difficult. But what I will say is that Samsung sitting at the backstage watching the first match of the day, watches this match, watches RNG play slow, methodical League of Legends, and they say, absolutely, all in. I'm opting into this because they are the team that loves to take it to late game, whatever the meta. They have a defensive jungle. They have a defensive mindset. I think Samsung Galaxy in an Ardent Sensor meta are a top 3 favorite for Worlds.
Well, that's if we see the Ardent Sensors. Azael, what's your take on this matchup?
I mean, well, hip timing as well. RNG move over there to pick it up. 2 inhibs cycled, can still go for the third because they have plenty of Baron left, about a minute of it. So as you said, Deficio just completely taking this game for themselves in the last 8 minutes or so after what was a very slow start.
Inhibitors falling slowly, but I don't know if Frozen's going to try to get in. He went very low there. A rupture into Uzi damage would mean Frozen's out of the
first game of groups, and I think that G2 fits the meta very well. We've seen Sven have incredible performances on the AD carry as this hyper carry with the team perfecting him. And I think that Expect can neutralize Cuvée in a tank versus tank matchup. And I feel that Crown has not shown the level that we expect from him. If Perks can dominate mid lane, I think G2 can win.
I want to talk about that, right? Those 2 solo lane matchups. We got Cuvée. When he was hot last year at Worlds, that's where Samsung really made a lot of their stamps on game.
Fight immediately, and it looks like they have to back off and get the heal in for Frozen before that minion wave gets there.
And we just saw Pat get a few hits on Let Me right there. It barely did anything to the choke at that. This is the kind of problem for Fenerbahce. They gotta kill Let Me fast so they can actually get further on and get to the background.
A top performer for Samsung Galaxy most recently, maybe a little bit uncertain in his ability.
And while I agree with that, my issue is that this meta doesn't seem to be about the lane phase. It almost doesn't really matter what happens as long as you just exit even. And right now, the late game better team fighters, you have to lean on Samsung Galaxy.
All right, well, as we head over to the casters for the draft, Perk says that while Samsung are a threat, they are not invulnerable.
Thank you very much, Dash. We will have to see what happens between...
Thalder will. He's way ahead of the team. Oh, they're on Uzi.
They're on Uzi. Uzi gets that cleanse. That's the unleashed power. He stays alive. The shields come through.
Gotta heal.
Stays alive from the bomb as well. RNG, however, have to pull back. Padden has the damage. Padden could have a Whimsy to speed up. He's only got Let Me to hit, though. MLXG could be able to stop them to use that Guardian Angel, but it is getting touch and go.
Classic Uzi. Sometimes he needs to be a little bit overconfident in what he's doing.
Mercurial Scimitar, Hex Drinker, Yarum's Fist, all of those things.
These two teams, we are back and ready to attack the microphones as we get into this next game, G2 versus Samsung Galaxy. So Samsung Galaxy between me and Jat, you can talk about G2 all day long, and then we'll have a pretty good cast.
I agree. That's a good setup for the cast here. I feel like I'm a little bit alone, though, but I agree with Azale right there.
Yeah, Azale's on your side right there. And I do think this match will tell us a lot about this group, obviously speaking. When you're trying to pick between Samsung, G2, and RNG, I think Samsung is favored by most. Way up there, barrier, heal. They used 2 heals on him during that fight, but he's alive. It was fine. That means his build alive.
Yeah, hey.
I've heard that before.
You got the inhib, so I guess job's done.
3 inhibs.
No flash of barrier, though. If there is a new fight for 1907 Fenerbahce, like, they need to go for it now, basically. There are ways to actually try and kill Uzi. Look at him, how far forward he's taking to kill that inhib. Everyone else is leaving.
Wanted the inhibitor.
They're like, give it an inhib, maybe kill it in Italy, and that actually opens up for Padden here to deal some serious damage to it, but last heal coming in from Xiaohu.
As they mentioned, these teams are almost mirror images of each other when you look at the way they play in their own region. They both like to play late game. They both like to play fairly low risk, and it could be a very interesting game.
And that's where I want to see if G2 are coming in with a different game plan and not just saying, you know what, we will also play late game because Samsung should be the big favorites there, and instead maybe change it. Ban away these Ardent Sensor supports here. Maybe try and force Samsung to also ban one by removing a Lulu or Janna on blue side, which is where G2 is sitting at the moment.
You can see they were kind of considering it. He's like, no, heal me. Do it. That bomb's going off. And they are on the same page all across the board right now. Terrifying to see that come through. Crash could be the first one going down here, as that is what RNG is doing right into the front side of the base for 1907 Fenerbahce. 8-2 here, 37.5 minutes in with a 10,000 gold lead. It's just 5 members of 1907 Fenerbahce that stand between RNG and the Nexus now.
Mortal Reminder is now ready for Padden here. He will get the heal from Crash as well to further buff his attack speed. Then try and play a more aggressive playstyle. It is not exactly what we normally see from them, but when you are playing a team that's basically playing the same style but just better, you sometimes have to change.
Flip the script a little bit, and they do have blue side, which means they get to dictate the flow of the draft a little bit more. There's the must bans that you would want to first pick. Samsung just gets rid of those right away. Kalista and Sejuani.
Because now we see this here for G2, as we just talked about. Like, we see the art sensor supports getting removed, so they are not just looking to protect Sven in the late game and do nothing else. At least what they're telling us with the first 2 bans here. AD carry-wise, Xayah, blue art sensor, but it needs to have time to actually hit someone. RNG, more than happy just dancing in and out of these team fights.
Minions. Yeah, with 3 inhibitors down, it's double super minions in every single wave, so they can most likely push through this even without the Baron. They're just going to hit the turrets and force 1907 Bachi to fight him. And if they don't fight him, the Nexus is going to die.
Let me tanking, but not for long. The turrets fall even faster. Crash goes down, a few shots from Uzi. Uzi staying alive. Scatter the Weak goes down right at the end by Frozen. They may have to back up. Nature's grabs come through.
Here as well for G2 to look at.
Yeah, Xayah has been so often first picked when there are Kalista bans, and especially a lot of peeling support bans, just because it is very difficult to get on top of the Xayah as well as just the early laning strength. So there is a chance here that G2 go for some playmaking down in the bottom lane.
Very true. Like, Alistar is a huge pick for Myth. The MVP performance on it in the EU LCS playoffs. It is available. You can go for it early if you want for G2 in the next, pick phase here, and try and camp Ruler and Core JJ. They are a strong dual lane on Samsung's side, but
he may even say, I'm going down for the team. But wait, they stay. LMHT on the side. Xiaohu on the right, trying to fit in the damage from the machine gun mage. And they are able to tear down 1907 Fenerbahce, where they stand in their base. A 13-3 scoreline. And the nexus for RNG as they start off their 2017 Worlds run with a victory.
38 minutes, 42 seconds. You may say it took them too long, but that's very close to their average game time throughout the LPL team. This team took gold runes on the Jana. They played for late. They even got first blooded by a surprise invade, but still died 3 times the entire game, picked up 13 kills, and in the end of it, it was a decisive victory.
Exactly, like we did talk about how RNG normally they have definitely been shut down in the past by teams playing very aggressive towards the bottom lane. Especially when there's a Varus that you can flash on as an Alistar.
By far the most picked champion for Ruler during the regular season, playing it even before, long before the Ardent Sensor meta took shape. And we've switched things up immediately because Gragas was the second best jungler, so to speak, with Sejuani ban. The Ivern, that's a throwback there for Trick.
I love the fact that Ivern is being used. I really felt like he was like low-key good coming into this because he brings Ardent Sensor. So when you run a support without Ardent Sensor, Ivern will bring that. As you said, like there are plenty of games where it is all about late game team fighting in the LPL specifically. So them taking a scaling draft was not a huge issue for them. They knew, don't play around Uzi early game, let him just farm, camp the mid lane instead from MLXG's side. They got a few kills after also losing a few early. And then we had the big stall moment around the Baron area until we started seeing them go for side lanes with Ryze and with the Rex side.
Yeah, they had control of that area around 23 minutes. So
on the side of Samsung.
However, they have still found an Ardent Sensor in their game. You can't ban all of them right there. Tarek, with the Ardent Sensor, can apply it to the entire team if he has the right circumstances reached, and can be very good against champions that have to all-in engage like Tarek, as long as the burst isn't incredibly upfront. But to your point, Officio, the Xayah Alistar can be extremely aggressive, and it doesn't have the late game penalty of no Ardent Sensor since they picked the Ivern. So I really love that trio of picks.
And Tarek, of course, is a standard answer from a lot of supports, especially over in the LCK, where looking...
That's often too early for many teams to go to Baron as well, and it's almost like as soon as we started thinking about Realm Warp, they started thinking about Realm Warp, because those Realm Warps set up all of the critical picks that gave them the objectives and the largest advantages of the game.
Fights when Alistar is like jumping your back line, you pop down that Tarek ulti, your carries will not die. A Varus with Rage Blade and Ardent Sensor just free hitting. But G2's comp at the moment with Ivern are not necessarily looking to dive the enemy backline in team fights. It's actually looking to also just deal with the big tanks in the front, because Ivern is obviously not going to offer anything when it comes to killing people.
You almost have 2 choices in that. You can say, oh, as G2, our first initiation didn't work, pull back, do it again.
That smells like a corgi pick.
Decide what they want to do. Absolutely could. We see the Kassadin, LeBlanc, Syndra, Ryze. Corki does seem like it could very much so be on the list. They may just leave it out for the last. Ruler could be locking in that Cho'Gath, as Samsung Galaxy, as we heard, loves to go late.
Yeah, and this is also a pick right there, a power pick in the top lane, and I think more importantly, gives them the counter pick in the mid lane. You already have those 4 mid lane bans. What do you think the blind pick is here for Perks?
Give me Trundle or Gnar for expect in the top lane against that Cho'Gath if he wants actually like a counter pick for himself. Perks wants to play it safe. The Kassadin ban was surprising when they now didn't pick the mid laner blind, because obviously G2 would never blind pick Kassadin. It seemed like Samsung were expecting a Cho'Gath ban from G2. When that didn't happen, they kind of adapted on the fly.
Yeah, I think a lot of these last picks don't have huge counter pick value right here. The Cho'Gath and the Maokai with the current bans, not necessarily huge counter pick value, and the Shen can have a better late game laning phase against the Cho'Gath if they choose that.
Yeah, and obviously Shen does offer even more potential bot lane dive. You have the Alistar engaged with the Shen ulti on him. I sometimes feel teams tunnel too hard and then just playing bot side when they go for Shen here over Maokai, because Maokai is the superior late game tank. And while it is a draft from G2 that is focused around killing Ruler in the bot lane, I still think the Maokai for late game would have been more than fine for G2, because this game will most likely go towards late game.
Absolutely. Hopefully Crown can now be a carry on that Talia. More so setting up the plays maybe for Cube to get in there, be that tank. They can cut people off with ambition. G2 looks like they could be all around these fights, really picking and choosing how they sort themselves out to get into it. Two sweet teams we see coming in for both, and both with that Ardent Sensor, as we were wondering.
Yeah, it's very interesting as two teams that do like to play it a little bit more slowly, yet last game with RNG in 1907 and Fenerbahce was that slow drawn-out one. Here, I see more initiation opportunities. You have the Shen who can always flank, you have the Alistair who can fly in, and then from Samsung's side, you have the global presence of the Talia to make plays in a side lane with a utility AD carry in Varus, which, by the way, 20 picks in Summer Split plus playoffs and regionals for Ruler is the most picks on one champion globally for any player in Summer Split Plus. So he is very comfortable and familiar with that Varus.
There you go. You got a way to measure that guy. So mystery gifting has been reset. That bonus is reset. Baron steals and pentakills will double the chance for a legendary skin or esports skin in the client. The bonus stacks up to 4 times max. I think we'll get some good Baron steals throughout groups. We're gonna see hashtag G2 and hashtag SSG when we're about to be onto the Rift and see who gets the next victory of group stage.
And it feels like we're right back towards MSI here for G2 already with that Iron pick coming in. Trick not played this champion during the summer split at all. Also, it's same with Shen for Expect actually up in the top lane. And obviously, during this boot camp here at G2 Esports, figuring out that there are other ways to get Ardent Sensor on the map. It doesn't have to just be support, and that's why Iron is right back in the meta.
And
go ahead.
We've seen the coin Targon lanes. Let me tell you, double relic shield lanes. Have you seen that one? They're trying to funnel gold as much as possible.
The bling lane.
Onto Core JJ.
Ooh. Okay, I like that.
Flashy plays.
Great flash with the mid laner.
Yeah, that could. Well, you'd think it would trigger early ganks, but not necessarily from the Ivern. It would then have to be Mithy roaming. I'm interested, actually, why Core JJ didn't just go coin on Taric, because you will generate so much more gold. That could speak to not wanting to get pushed in early by the Alistair kill threat, because you do have a very real trade-off of combat stats early on when you were going coin versus when you're going a relic shield. The health could end up coming in pretty handy.
I also want to see if Ruler is just rushing the Rage Blade. It's a build we see a lot from Varus at the moment because it's a super strong spike for him on just one item, and then when Core JJ gets his Ardent Sensor, you have these two items that just work perfectly together. You know, attack speed that stacks up the Rage Blade faster, and you just deal so much damage at that point. So they're trying to actually really get as much gold as possible for both members, because obviously their build path towards Rage Blade kind of sucks when you got to build AP as well on the way as an AD carry. It doesn't feel great, but once you get the full item, it's strong.
Escalate that goal just a little bit with the early game purchases. We'll see if Samsung can get to that curve nice and quick.
Yeah, I do have to credit Samsung's early warding there, seeing Trick on the blue buff. There is a lot of variance in what Ivern can do early, and he's a very real threat for invading and stealing the enemy red if Ambition isn't going to rush towards him. So they spotted him. Seeing that he smote his own blue meant he wasn't going to invade the red. That actually lets you predict the entirety of the Ivern path. It means he's going to do a slow clear right here, so he's going to keep on his own side until he's level 4.
And I was looking at Ambition and seeing if maybe he wants to invade the no-flash Ivern early, because Talia will get the push on Corki, as we can see here on your minimap, with Crown basically, you know, pushing perks down to his tower. But Ambition just taking his own slow clear. Ivern, after we nerfed him some time ago, like, gets really low in the jungle on that first clear. So if he has no flash, like, it's a Gragas fighting him with a red buff, and that's a kill for Samsung. But Ambition are not going in there just yet.
Also, this Ivern for Trick, like riding a bike, actually haven't seen it as of much lately. Gragas, Sejuani, Jarvan, Zac, and the not-so-often Maokai was his champion pool as of late. But here, bringing back, as we said, that Ardent Sensor for the team. What else are teams going to show at Worlds? G2 try to put a stamp on this one, as they go for the melee jungler and Ardent, or I'm sorry, melee support and Ardent jungler.
Yeah, and just reminding everyone that this is the exact same starting lineup that made it all the way to World Finals last year, but wasn't necessarily expected to.
Right.
They did win their group, they won all of their bracket stage games, but many people were expecting the Tigers to make it out, and a lot of people thought TSM would actually win the group that Samsung was in as early on in this tournament as that. So definitely trying to have that type of Worlds performance once again where they can make it all the way to the final.
And one of the big reasons they made the final in 2016, one of the big reasons they're here again in 2017 is because of ambition in the jungle. Like, he did step away from the team. They were playing with Haru as well, and it just wasn't the same. They need his leadership, but he's the kind of jungler who doesn't take any risks. He plays very slow early on, and that's why he did not invade this Iron. Top lane gank right now.
Waiting, nice rupture, get that long range for Trick so he can get the damage in, and it looks like Expect's gonna get the tank early, but the damage won't be there. Root Caller just a little closer, and he stays alive. Chugs the potion early, shield comes up. They stay alive, but that was botched.
That was a little bit overzealous by Expect, flashing to get the sword pass through when he'd already taunted early. They had taken Cuvée out of the lane, they had burned his flash, but they thought they could get the kill. In doing so, they give up any advantage they would have gained from the game.
He forgot that Iron barely deals any damage right there, and actually was on the Shen to try and kill the Cho'Gath in the end. Cuvée stays alive, TP's right back into that lane, and he is fine now, trading flashes up in that top lane. Trick's own flash is almost ready now, so he did not get punished for it. As I was saying just before here, Ambition do not take any risks early on. It's slow jungling, meaning Samsung plays a lot slower with him, and they can get to late game more often without being too far behind.
Yeah, they made
He's back, baby.
Round 2. They got the taunt.
The flash is up. Where is it? Oh, there's that long range damage. Root Caller to come in. This one's gonna be it. He's gonna slalom through the minions, but not far enough. First blood going to Shen, going to Expect.
Fishio, Ivern players everywhere. You do a little bit of damage.
You definitely do a little bit.
It's better than having no one else there. And
it's sugar-coated.
Specifically, being able to just shield the melee champion when you have a flashless opponent is so critical. And just smacking them with that auto attack.
It's the worst way to die to a gank. Is this Candyman just standing there, like slowly hitting you and grinding you
is
down.
terrifying.
In the end, if you give him enough time, yeah, he will definitely deal a bit of damage. And bit.
Needed toward, but the red buff is actually one of the critical things right here, because the brush plus auto attack stacking up with red buff do a reasonable amount of damage that can easily kill the Cho'Gath right there, and that return is what they need. It's still yet to see Ambition make his entrance into a lane.
And obviously Cuvée right there was in a very tough spot because the lane was pushing towards Expect when the gank happened. So when he returned to that lane, he was kind of overextended from the get-go. His own jungler wasn't there to assist him, and that's why Trick could return to that top lane. It does mean now, Expect with that first blood, he will get level 6 very soon. We're looking straight towards bottom lane, then Alistar engage, offensive summoner from Mithy, pop in a Shen ulti, and that should be a kill for G2, but they gotta execute the play first.
Trick with the Moby boots, zoomies around the map as he starts cleaning up, and here he is going to get the counter gank on what could happen bot lane. Seems to slowly be fizzling out. And a good shove here for Perks in the mid lane. Crown getting some good damage on as they trade back and forth.
Making a good job by Perks to clear that control ward in his own red buff. That's a pesky ward that often stays alive for the majority of a game, but disciplined to check that ward, knowing he had been counter jungled.
Got that Shen level 6 now.
And pressure on the bot side here. Trick puts down a ward. An Infernal Drake would be nice to get to start things off in this game, with Cuvé's TP being down as well.
Exactly. It's very hard for Samsung to respond. We will obviously have Crown with his ulti available to go down to the bottom side. G2 might wait for the package here before they actually really execute the play, but you can see how Samsung, they know, like, they're reading the exact same game plan that G2 are trying to create here, because Ruler and Core JJ will just play passive on bottom side and say, if you want to kill us, you got to tower dive us. And then there might be a Talia behind you, there might be a Gragas there. So they're really going to make sure G2 do not get an easy opening, and that's one of the main strengths of Samsung as a team. They truly understand how to play defensive early.
Yeah, and when you're playing so defensive, you also need to find efficient ways to play offense, because you can't just play defense all the time and expect to win. And when looking at Samsung's tools they have this game, it's the Talia Gragas roam squad into a side lane, whether that's bottom lane or top lane. Based on the current state of the game, with the Shen ult up, the bottom lane isn't necessarily the way you play. So if we see Samsung make a play, it would have to be around top side, which is why I love Trick getting rid of that red buff and taking some of the control back in the jungle.
And G2 are right now trying to force Samsung's bot lane to overextend. They have let that wave push towards them. So now you can see that we actually have Samsung past the river with Ruler and Core JJ. The Varus have not gone back to base yet either. He's very, very weak at this point. But G2 needs to engage to actually get the fight, and now Samsung just backs away instantly.
Yeah, I'm surprised the Crown was moving down that aggressively into the jungle. I think he was just hoping the that G2 would go aggressive and he could maybe turn something around, because at the time, QV's teleport was down, and it would have just been expect who can match that and give them a numbers advantage.
Looks like QV just munched on a minion in the top side as he starts to get himself stacked up. Expect goes back into the minion wave and try and sort this out, so he's got an even bigger wave to deal with the turret. That could be the teleport down, or at least to stand united, but now both are up, so it's going to be a big fight if it happens. Next Drake is also Infernal, as we said before, so that is still something that both teams want.
We'll most likely have to come after someone actually gets a kill first. Yeah. It's rare you allow you to just walk in and kill that Infernal on your own. Perkz is actually looking towards topside with the package here. They've not been able to do anything against Ruler and Core JJ, and now Ruler went back, got 2 of the components here for his Rage, but even upgraded the Relic Shield, so eventually he will get a bit of a shield as well for himself.
And double Targon's bracing that bottom lane.
Nice.
Whoa.
Good close by Crown.
Small moves. Crown taking complete control of the lane. Could flash forward for another Q. Holds it. Knows he just gets the lane dominance, and now Ambition can hang around in the jungle, and Samsung starts to move the entire play up.
Yeah, and this could allow them to just go straight on the Infernal Drake or get more control. Ambition has the control ward and his Cinder Call completed. He's actually way stronger than Trick right now, who's trying to rush toward the Arctic Sensor. Not to mention they forced Perkz back, so this is that type of efficient offense that we talked about from Samsung. They didn't have to do much, but the Infernal Drake gives them a large advantage.
And it wasn't a kill, but instead just chunked the mid laner so he can't join. Effectively doing the same thing for you here if you are Samsung, giving you that objective here. But Expect is still sitting there on the Shen. He's level 8 now. He's had that ulti for 2 levels, and he's just kind of like, guys, we picked this champion for one specific reason, which is to be able to play aggressive on the other side of the map. But we're not doing it.
I think you also pick Shen for 2 reasons. He's one of the best counter-engaged champions as well if someone tries to go aggressive, but specifically against Samsung, that's not necessarily the use case for the Shen ultimate, so they would have to create something happen, but I don't think Samsung has actually given them many opportunities. The control wards that they have set up in the river themselves, there's been very few opportunities to actually get a numbers advantage down there while they're pushed up in a meaningful way.
And then obviously if you're RG2, you can swap it towards the mid lane. Try and have Perkz play aggressive with his Valk and a Shen ulti to force Crown out of the laning phase and then use that squad to move down. Like you see Perkz right now, he's trying to do exactly that. And he's like, okay, we're not diving bot lane, so I now need to win this mid lane in order for G2 to start really getting ahead. Because right now they're down 200 gold and Samsung, they're just scaling. They're like, yep, this is great, man.
Lots of respect being shown by both teams, specifically even the mid laners are only going aggressive when their jungler is nearby. Whether or not he's actually been spotted by a warden or not, the enemy mid laner is just respecting it. He says, if you're playing aggressive, you probably have a jungle, and there's actually not been much bluffing that goes on either.
If he's just out of range with his headbutt, so he just ends up smacking the ground. Not getting any engage on Ruler.
There's a hover on Trick. Trick is just on his way down, as well as Ambition just off on the sides. Cosmic Radiance is going to stave off some of the damage. Ruler's being chased though, and here they are after Ruler. Daisy comes out. Core JJ just on the backside. His last bit of mana is a dazzle, and with the Bastion placed correctly, they get a nice X on that stun. Ambition's here to see what happens. Looks like this one's just going to fizzle out. He's got to be careful.
But they're not actually checking the brush, so they don't know he's there.
Control warded. They can bring Talia down as well.
Crown has all the time in the world. He's going to go for the squishiest. If he can get the Sven and knock him back, that's the goal. Daisy stopping him. A great knockoff. And they get out unscathed, basically, on both sides. Can't say the same for the Summoners on the side of Samsung Galaxy and their Sven's flash.
Yeah, you have to remember, the Xayah cannot jump over the wall with the ulti. She just kind of jumps up in the air and right back down. So Sven flashing away. Smart play by Crown to just get something. They weren't actually chasing for that kill. They just wanted Sven to use his flash.
Oh, Sven, no flash. They get the ultimate as well.
Stunned under. Ruler goes a little aggressive. Ambition's here to possibly save the day. The brush is there for Sven to keep firing from as he uses it for a bit of protection in and out. And G2 is out.
That's exactly the type of turnaround they needed after they used the Shen ultimate to not generate a kill, because that lane was starting to get a little bit out of hand, and Ruler was getting very close to completing the Ginsu's Rage Blade. So with that 27 or so CS advantage that Ruler had, getting the kill onto Sven will help him keep pace.
Yeah, because going back to the play G2 tried to make, it was actually really bad coordination for them as a team. The engage happened in the bottom lane. Ivan was on the way down, but Expect was not in a position to use his ulti. He had to run away from the Cho'Gath first, just like we ran away from the potential fight in the replay. And that simply meant that the Shen ult came down very late, And by then, Samsung had already kind of stepped away and gotten out of the fight. And it could actually have gone really wrong for G2 with that Gragas hiding in the brush. But in the end, Ruler makes a mistake on his own. There's a kill for G2, and they get something at least.
Also, Cuvee now with that TP up. Stand United and teleport down for Expect. These guys decide to do something cross-map. I think with all the summoners down on the side of Samsung, they may hold off for here. Cuvee must be using these to save himself in that top lane.
It's a good lane swap from G2 though to be a step ahead of Samsung because Ruler is just recalling now and G2 are already at the tower.
Yeah, Ruler was in this awkward spot where he's trying to get the completion gold for his Rage Blade and wasn't willing to be out on the map. The Essence Reaver Power Spike, so important for also facilitating this lane swap. So even if they want a match, they're not going to have the same combat power. And now Samsung in a almost permanently defensive position until they can find a recall timing to finish that Rage Blade on Ruler.
Feels bad, man, leaving that base again without actually getting your item.
Rage Blade is a really painful completion, and when you die like that, then get lane swapped on, it just makes it even worse.
Pretty much getting dictated on, and they have to follow. Lane's going to be pushed in hard here. Middy and the rest of the team have forward wards that might see Ambition if he does not stay in that lane. He is going to go to the jungle, so they know they can be careful not to go aggressive. Nice forward plays here from G2 to set things up in the early game.
We saw the first Shen ulti not really be too effective for G2. The next one will be harder to use because TP is ready for Cuvee. He's not going to use it back to lane anymore. He's just going to hold it for that potential fight now on the top side of the map. If you manage to win that fight where the dual lanes are, you're most likely getting a Rift Herald as well as a reward, and that's suddenly a tower going down in your favor. So when you have these two teams with Ardent Sensor trying to both go to late game, very small things can really impact early on who actually gets the advantage with the gold.
Yeah, and a really early Daisy used by Trick, but this can actually be used as a way to push the turret really effectively. He's got an Ardent Sensor for perks to help his attack speed, and then Daisy ends up tanking the turret to keep it alive. So Crown couldn't be able to clear it, but how much can they actually get done? It's these small things that the teams are trying to get in this slow game.
Still quite a ways for that minion wave to get up, as now Ruler and the rest, I'm sorry, Core JJ and the rest of the team trying to make a move towards the mid lane, allow Ruler to farm up with that Rage Blade now. And Perks standing very tall right front, knows the team is behind him, and G2 feels like they have more control of the map to take these little back and forths.
The game definitely getting more tense now as we're starting to see the items being completed and more playmaking tools and a lot more damage being on the table, but this type of pace actually isn't that surprising. Samsung,
Samsung,
the slowest team in their region and the slowest team at Worlds combined kills per minute wise in the summer split, and then G2 extremely slow as well. You can see 12th slowest in combined kills per minute from the summer split for teams at Worlds and 8th in their own region. So when we talk about these teams kind of being a mirror matchup to each other, this is what we're talking about as well as other things.
Yeah, it's two teams who do not like to go for the high risk, high reward plays. Instead, you're trying to make it, you know, a low risk play. And sure, you might not get the huge reward where you're getting an early ace or like many towers going down early, but you're often just getting small advantages, small victories that will eventually snowball into that big win around a Baron or around a late game team fight. Obviously for G2 and Samsung, both comps have a lot of scaling on their side. Like Corki scales like a monster, there's Ardent Sensor from the Iron as well, and both teams are okay saying, sure, let's just go towards the late game and test who is truly the best team fighting team.
And I feel like Cuvee is feeling that even more. We don't have that Tristana in this game to destroy him if he goes to 30-some minutes as that Cho'Gath. Already the Righteous Glory could be that engage that the team looks for. Right now, Rift Herald and possibly a Dragon, but the Cloud Drake may just stay waving in the wind for a while here. Might get a little aggression from that top side.
There we go.
I was wondering, it's kind of like Middy's calling to the team, do we want this? Should we engage? Perk says yes. Right over the wall, Cosmic Radiance goes out, uses that another Valkyrie to get himself to safety, and Stand United comes in. The 2v2 on the backside with Daisy coming in, threes the crowd. And what damage from Perks! Looking at the left side now, his Ambition about to go down. Featherstorm comes out as they try to lock him down. Great fights by Core JJ and Crown on the right side. As we look back behind Baron Pit, they're able to turn the fight as the double kill from Expect comes through after the flash. And now they're trying to sort this one out to keep themselves alive, but also find that last sliver of health that could be keeping Expect alive. And he goes down. 2 more kills for Samsung Galaxy.
What chaos in that fight after 18 minutes of trying to find small advantages. Everyone finally uses those globals to fight around the Rift Herald. It's a split fight. top and bottom, but in the end of it, 4 people fall on G2, and Samsung trying to push mid.
Yeah, it was a good start with the Corki jumping into that backline, but CoreJJ read the situation and instantly popped the Taric ulti. Bought so much time before he could actually kill Ruler in the fight and allowing the rest of Samsung to...
Let's see it one more time.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see it again here. After they forced the flash from Taric, the package is available from Perk's side. He should call for Shen ulti already, but Shen of course has to respect that he can't be stopped by a Cho'Gath. So he actually ends up jumping out of the fight, but now the ulti's down here, buying time for Samsung's backline, and then look at Ambition to the left, waiting for QA to join. And by the time this Cho'Gath joins, well, a lot of damage has already been dealt by the Gragas, and now kills coming to Samsung.
Yeah, small fight on the back end as well, and when Crown is untouched, it allows him to chase, because at this point, it looked like a one fight for G2, but because of how healthy Cuvée and Crown were by the end of it, thanks to how much G2 burned at the very start of that fight into the Taric ultimate, since they couldn't escape the fight, it ends up being 4 for 3.
This Rift Herald is going to disappear very, very soon, but they just kill it in time. Samsung got the bot lane tower, though, getting a lot of gold.
They're going for more, too. Low. They got Ardent Sensor pushing down there, as well as the Rage Blades. Tough one for Expected Defend.
They're going for the... Okay, I was going to say. Taunt out. CoreJJ is able to tank it up. They got the minion wave there that's going to be bot. Rift Herald's going to be thrown mid. They can try to get the damage in.
And suddenly...
Could be 2 turrets for G2 right here. There's a low turret top lane as well.
And suddenly the game is supposed to speeding up. Like after that fight at the Rift Herald, we're getting bot lane tower down, mid lane tower down. This tower from G2 in the mid lane is so low. That's like 2 or 3 hits from Samsung, and that's gone as well. And then you have a wide open map where we're going to get a lot of fights to control mid lane, to get Baron vision, and we're going to get team fights. So many team fights in this game here.
You better not be lying to me, Martin.
Oh, trust me, we're going to get
at least 1 more team fight, Riv.
Okay,
I will promise you 2 more.
Whew.
I got a one-up.
All right. I'm getting a little... Okay. 5-4 here, 20 minutes in, and it is the top turret and the mid turret we're looking at. Mid turret for G2, top turret for Samsung Galaxy, and that may be what's going down. They don't feel comfortable enough, not enough wards forward to get that to happen, but G2 being able to protect this mid one is big. If that opens up for the map, Samsung Galaxy is going to be all over their jungle.
Yeah, because Samsung were playing on the bottom side just before where they killed that bot lane tower, G2 actually had no wards on this side, so they didn't see them walk to this Cloud Drake, and that's why they stepped away top lane, not knowing, okay, are like multiple members from Samsung gonna show up here and kill us? And that actually means this tower is still sitting there, and the gold is not in G2's pocket by the time Sven went back to base. Small things, but again, the vision control always important, and when teams are splitting the map, oftentimes, if you have a Drake down there, you're gonna get an extra reward.
Yeah, and I think, especially in a world with Taric, the Baron is such a threat to go down, because the way Taric with Ardent Sensor works is he can heal you with his Q, auto-attack twice to get the charges back and the cooldown, and heal you again. So it is permanent Ardent Sensor for him and whoever he's bastioned with. So it's an incredibly healthy Baron. They actually don't take damage within that pit. And they have Cho'Gath to secure. So G2's got to be very careful to not get anyone chunked out, not take any bad recalls. Otherwise, that Baron's gone.
He's also the kind of champion who is okay with having his team sitting around him in a little Baron pit and getting engaged on, because that's where his ulti shines. He can see G2 walk towards them, pop that ulti early, and then be ready to fight right after.
Oh, Samsung is then able to clean up. That Cloud Drake is there as the mid turret goes down and top in favor of Samsung Galaxy before they lost their top turret that is on its last leg. Here now Cuvée is going to guard the bottom side and push Expect back off. Mormais and the Righteous Glory almost unkillable at this point.
And we have seen already in this game, just Samsung playing the slow game slightly better than G2 Esports. Yes, this top lane tower will die soon and give some gold back, but it's still in favor of Samsung. And coming down to that big fight around the Rift Herald, and the fact that Rula and CoreJJ, despite being against a tough setup, barely actually were under pressure in the bot lane. They were able to just kind of farm evenly, even slightly ahead now, and Samsung were happy with that early game.
Yeah, and when we're thinking about the way these teams match up against each other, both liking to play slow, try and get to the team fight phase, we were kind of expecting, you know, Samsung does that a little bit better. Yeah. So in order for G2 to win, don't just play exactly the same game, switch it up a bit, which is what we thought they might be able to do with Shen and Corki with package and double TP to pull things around the bot lane with their engage Alistar. But you're sitting at a 2-assist Alistar and a 2-kill Sven at this stage in the game. It doesn't feel like they've necessarily done enough of that early stuff before we're in this team fight phase. Still yet to be decided. You can still out team fight them, but it is definitely advantage Samsung right now.
Yeah, obviously one thing the Shen will bring is the ability to block some of these autos from an AD carry with Rage Blade, who's basically built around just landing auto attack as fast as possible. But that's a few seconds where you remove some damage from Ruler. After that, the Cho'Gath definitely takes over in teamfight value. Yeah. Because not only is he hard to kill, he can actually also kill you.
I'm half health, it's okay. No, it's not.
It's never okay.
It's never okay. A lot of love over this blue buff as it's been spawning and just ward control in general. We said Baron's going to be incredibly scary for these teams to hit up, but they're still going to pressure each other into this situation to see who makes a mistake around this area. Mid lane getting a little bit of minion love now coming in, but it looks like it gets cleared out immediately by Sven and the rest of the team there.
He had to run a lot. Vision caught.
Very, very caught. Cosmic Radiance goes down. Looks like the whole team's going to be able to walk out of this. A nice hit onto Ruler from Daisy. Might keep him in range, but Cube getting in there with the rest of the team, but Crown comes through. Throw another rock, he says, and comes up with the kill onto Trick. Now a silence. Perks in the mid lane, almost getting chomped down, but that's already been used by Cube. Another kill onto Expect, and that goes into the hands of Ruler as they have finally found G2 wandering around in the jungle.
Yeah, and that's Baron. I was going to say to track the cooldown of Farsight totems because Samsung was starting to choke vision around Baron, but they actually face check while having both Farsight totems up, and that gives them a very bad initiation. And here's the Baron we talked about. They're healing on the pit, thanks to Core JJ.
And this G2 lineup that's trying to play these teamfights where they want to have perks and Sven just deal a lot of damage with auto attacks, and then they can, you know, have these long fights where they can stay alive. It gets kind of ruined by the fact that Crown is able to deal serious damage, and then Cuvée is able to finish off people. Normally when you're stepping out of a fight as like an Iron or a Shen, you can kind of regain some HP and you won't actually die and the fight won't end. But when this Cho'Gath joins, he just feasts the first guy in front of him and kills him, and then the Iron is already gone. Like, look at this fight here. It actually is fine on both sides. Early Terrigal comes down, and now with Trick being caught by both Cho'Gath and Talia, well, he's gone in a second, and you can no longer kite.
Yeah, Varus ultimate, very key right there as well. Cube's so tanky on the outside, and Ruler has that passive attack speed from picking up a kill, can just start shredding through people. A very accurate ruptures from Cube as well coming into this choke point-filled team fight, and the 2 kills is all they need to get that Baron. Cho'Gath dominated fight.
I mean, take away his true damage, still crushing through people. AD carries Sven, trying to do what he can from that back line. Not too many survival items for him just yet, if any. Really just the damage and his ultimate that he's trying to use. They're going to watch their mid turret go down and bottom. That's the thing. Samsung Galaxy has been able to do a 1-2 turret punch more than once. Their influx of gold has been pretty crazy this game.
And it just feels so in control. Even in the early game when they are under pressure, it never feels like they're actually like struggling to stay in the game. They punish some of the decisions by G2. They win the team fights, which is the most important thing for Samsung in this game.
Trying to make something happen.
Throws down that Iron Will. Will he be able to stay alive throughout all the damage? No. Cubase says dinner time as they start going on the turrets. The silence, the ruptures. G2 can hardly even move inside their own bases. Samsung Galaxy plows through the front door. Looks to get another kill on Sven. A double kill for Crown as he says King Me coming through the base as well. And they're going to start on the Nexus turrets.
Beautiful flash seismic shove at the tail end of that fight to put the icing on the cake. Carries are gone. Samsung has Baron. This is game, Riv.
27.5 minutes in, Samsung Galaxy will lock down their first win as they start group stages.
And we learned a few things in this game here. Crown is a player who's gotten a lot of criticism during the summer split. It's not been great for him. He's died a lot in the early game. He struggled to have the impact in the late game. This game, however, his Talia was spot on. Fantastic team fights from him. Multiple times we even saw that. Last one, sure, you got to flash forward and get a little fancy kill as well.
Not necessarily about the Weaver's Wall, as the double teleport and the Shen would have potentially blocked those, but able to chain the CC very well with the rest of that team. So Cuvée on the Cho'Gath, even though he wasn't the guy with the 3 kills from the mid-game team fight, really controlled those fights that ended the game very quickly, because the fight around the Baron pit to the Baron, it was over before that power play was done.
Exactly. A lot of things made sense in the G2 draft. The Shen, sure, we get the idea behind it to try and kill the bot lane, but as we mentioned in Champ Select, sometimes you can tunnel a little bit too hard on saying, let's go and try and kill that bot lane with the Shen, because in the late game team fight compared to Cho'Gath, you just don't have the same value. Cho'Gath will always end up being, you know, tanky and be able to just kill whatever is in front of him and get that first kill you need in a fight when so many tanks and Ardent Sensor 80 carries.
Very strong play coming from Samsung Galaxy. We saw the Rift Herald Scuffle kind of really be the opening to the game, and what was a pretty back and forth early game. Trick getting a lot of pressure towards the top side, fumbled once, but still were able to come up with that kill. Hopefully, want to shut down a Cho'Gath, but it's inevitable that he just becomes the controller of the game.
Yeah, and we did definitely get a display of how well Samsung can play defense and how because they play safe doesn't mean that they can't pull the trigger. Because when they had that small advantage, the game was over, right? They got the one fight before the Baron pit. They knew exactly where to go from there. They went to the mid lane. They were killing multiple turrets. They forced G2 into engage. Like, everything happened very quickly as soon as it was ready, which is why this is a very scary team to play against.
And why also it's a bit of a mismatch for G2, simply because they are not the team who can force aggressive plays very well. We saw some coordination issues with that Shen ulti coming down to try and shut down the bottom side of the map, and very quickly Samsung realized we're actually not going to die to this. We can just keep doing what we're doing now, keep farming, and wait for that one fight. We need to get back in this game or get ahead in this game.
So looking at what we've seen so far, is there any way to de-escalate the game going so long? Is there anything teams can do, maybe say like 19-7 Fenerbahce, to say, no, we just have to go crazy early game?
I mean, that's going to be what will make or break Samsung's success, right? Because they have a way that they want to play the game. This feels like a very favorable meta for them. When you have the barrier hill bottom laners, and unless someone is willing to challenge that paradigm, the game's going to go until those item power spikes. Unless, I mean, G2 was close to it right here, right? They banned out the shielders. They went for Alistair. They actually did challenge that bottom lane, but they didn't do it well enough. Right? They didn't actually generate the kills in the bottom lane, so they couldn't accelerate the game.
And I think also you can look at the Iron pick and say, okay, let's swap that out for an aggressive early jungler. You have the Shen, you have an early game jungler, let's just put in Rek'Sai for the sake of it. Suddenly, you have a comp that can play much faster early and really try and shut down this Varus Taric in the bottom lane, and you have a game where it might not be just sit back and play slow for Samsung. They might be forced into early trades, and that's where you're going to see some teams really speed up the game, because the answer to scaling is very often we'll attack them early when they're not very strong. Some teams can do it, some teams can't. G2 sadly fall into the category of teams who can't really do that too well, which is why they go for things like Ivern and say, we also want late game.
I was just going to say that as well. Is the Ivern pick trying to get that Ardent Sensor in there giving up too much, or completely a plausible composition that they went with?
I think it's definitely a plausible composition. I think a lot of it just lies in the execution. I don't have a fault necessarily with G2's draft in this game. It's just a matter that they couldn't generate the kills early enough, and then Samsung was just a better version of G2 as far as playing towards the late game.
Exactly, and of course QV and Ambition, Gragas and Cho'Gath, like we saw these fights. They were
so much CC.
There's so much CC, and they were able to kill the backline of G2 you know, fast enough with these two champions as well.
Well, Samsung got off to a flying start here in the group stage with a win over G2, so let's hear from their mid laner for more on that game.
Thank you very much, guys. And he joined here by Crown after a crushing performance in his first game on stage. And after we saw Chase your legend and how tough it was for you to rebound from that loss last year at Worlds, what can we expect from Crown, from you as a player personally? What do you want to show on the stage this year?
크라운 선수 이번 1경기 때 엄청난 경기를 보여주셨는데요. 이제 지난 전설을 쫓다 영상을 보면 크라운 선수가 작년 롤드컵 우승을 놓친 뒤로 얼마나 분해하고 어떻게 다시 그 아픔을 딛고 올라설 수 있었는지 영상에 보여줬는데, 이번 올해 대회는 크라운 선수가 개인적으로 어떤 경기를 보여줄 수 있을 것 같은지 말씀해 주세요.
네. 작년에 준우승을 하긴 했는데 그래도 제 자신에게 너무 실망을 많이 했어요. 그래서 스프링 시즌 이제 롤챔스 정규 스프링 시즌 때 엄청 열심히 했는데 그때도 좋은 성적을 못 거둬서 좀 더 실망을 많이 하고 약간 인생의 슬럼프 같은 느낌으로 그때부터 쭉 하락세를 최근까지 겪고 있다가 최근에 이제 아니다 하면서 다시 정신 차리고 이번 시즌 마지막이니까 진짜 한번 불태우고 어떻게 내 자신에게 만족할 수 있는, 최선을 다해서 만족할 수 있는 결과를 만들고 끝나더라도 이제 끝나고 길어서 끝나고 그때 돼서 이제 실망하든 말든 최선을 다했으니까 그때 대해서 생각하자, 약간 그런 마인드로 지금은 임하고 있습니다. 네.
So even though we were the runner-up of last year Worlds, I was really disappointed in my own performance. And I put a lot of effort during the off season and during the first spring season of this year, but eventually our results weren't too good. So I was again really disappointed about myself. So at that time, it was a really difficult time for me, and it was kind of slump period for me. But coming into Worlds, I thought that since it's the last tournament of the year and this most big event, I want to put all our regrets behind, and I just want to show a strong performance for myself and for the team.
Yeah, because talking about the team, you guys came in as the underdogs last year. It wasn't also the best run for you guys, but you got through the gauntlet, you crushed it in the group stage, you almost took home that cup. So it was a fairy tale last year, but as a team, what can we expect from Samsung this year? Is it gonna be just one game away from the trophy, or are you finally taking it home?
사실 작년 삼성팀의 경우에는 우승 후보로 꼽히지 않았지만 이제 국가 지역 선발전 거치고 이제 한 단계 올라서면서 거의 동화처럼 그런 기적 같은 경기를 보여주면서 딱 한 경기 아쉽게 우승을 못하는데요. 어떻게 올해는 삼성팀이 더욱더 다른 모습을 기대될지, 아니면 올해도 작년처럼 한 경기에 못 미쳐서 우승을 못할 것 같은지, 삼성팀의 이번 대회 성적 어떻게 예상하시나요?
일단은 아직 그룹 스테이지를 진행 중이고, 그래서 아직 엄청난 경기들이 많이 남았어요. 상대적으로 강팀들도 많이 남았고, 그래서 그렇게 이제 마지막까지 어떻게 될지는 아직 예상할 수 없을 것 같고, 저희 팀도 작년에 비해서 이제 다 좀 더 잘해졌다고 생각은 하지만 아직 많이 부족하고, 근데 저희가 성장하는 만큼 다른 많은 강호 팀들도 성장을 하기 때문에 일단은 끝까지 지켜봐야 되지 않나 생각합니다. 네.
Since this is just group stage, it's really hard to tell. There's a lot of strong teams and a lot of obstacles ahead of us. So even though I think our team improved compared to last year, but also that means other teams improved as well. Other strong teams became even stronger. So I think it's really hard to tell how this world will unravel, but hopefully we'll perform better this year.
All right, the competition is very tough, but you guys have had your first win today. Thank you very much, and congratulations, Crown. And out, back over to you guys at the desk.
Thank you very much, Shocks. Reaching for greatness here, the Samsung Galaxy team, after falling short just last year. A Game 1 victory on day one is a good start for this squad over G2, and they did it, as was mentioned, in fairly dominant fashion.
Yeah, they were very dominant, and I kind of have a bone to pick with G2 and with Shen in particular. So my problem with this champion is if you're not being proactive, it's pretty much worthless, right? I think that you need to be proactive with the ultimate, or you're going to get outscaled by someone like a Cho'Gath, like a Maokai. You are going to struggle to actually match up in the later game team fights. G2, the first time they use a Shen ultimate, Stand United is level 8, level 9, and it's after the play has already fizzled out. So to me, so much actually hinged on their failure to use this pick properly. I think it can work, but if you're trying to play in a meta where you're going to play slow and you're going to go late game for team fights, Shen is not the champion to really do it, and I was just very disappointed with how G2 utilized the pick. And honestly, if this is the style that they wanted to play, that they went for it in the first place, because something like a Trundle or a Maokai would be massively more effective when they came to that team fighting stage.
I mean, G2 are definitely trying to unsense a break. They banned away Janna and Lulu. You can see that on the screen. They thought, okay, let's increase the pace of the game. But then you consider you're against double Relic Shield into double Targon, so the most gold generation possible for the early Ardent Sensor. And also, they have no Ardent Sensor in the late game, so they're going to reach a point where, honestly, you can't 5v5 team fight. Taric is that beast in the late game, so they tried to force a faster pace, and then I agree with you, something like a Maokai, something to increase the pace of the game, because the Shen ultimates, they weren't doing it for.
I mean, frankly, there is that window, though, that as soon as you kind of get out of that weird, like, middle, early to mid game, where you don't have to 5v5, that you can look at the 1-3-1 with the Corki, with the Shen. Unfortunately, you know, they walked into that early Baron fight, they just got blown up into the team fight, and it was over from there.
And again, we talked about Samsung Galaxy's success last year at Worlds, hinging on Kuve's performance, and once again, putting up a huge performance on that Cho'Gath. You saw the damage charts, essentially matching Crown in the mid lane. But I want to return to a point that was made by the casters, this Ivern pick, and what they could have maybe done with, say, a Rek'Sai, as Deficio proposed. Do you think, Azael, would that have been enough to kind of fix some of those early game and proactivity issues that you're calling out alongside the Shen pick?
I mean, it's certainly possible, but I think it's more about their play and less about the picks, because they had Alistar, they had the Shen, they have Corki with package. It's not like you can't force a fight. They just failed to really do it. I mean, the one time they actually stand United bot lane is after the combo has already been used, after the root has already been used from Xayah, the fight is already complete, and then they ult in. So to me, it's more about the coordination and the utilization of the champion. But I do agree that you can go with aggressive picks, and that can be another way to start things.
And they frankly did have a really big window. You know, they burned the early teleport up into the top lane. It meant that the Stand United for the first time would be uncontested. Infernal Drake, Alistar bottom. There were all of the key components to make an early game play. They simply didn't execute on it.
Now, Papa Smithy, I want to get quick thoughts here on the Taric pickup. I was having a conversation this morning with Vedius about, you know, a meta that revolves around high-performing ADCs and possibly high-intensity late-game team fights. Taric, kind of a master of team fights in a sense.
I mean, you fit it to a T. Your description is exactly what Taric brings. And when Lulu is gone especially, it does feel like most of the lanes you can get through, Taric against Alistar is a very common draft because you can survive the lane very well. And invulnerability, Ardent Sensor, which was matched, of course, by the enemy jungler, by the Ivern, but still, the kit is so perfectly set up. And the moment that those snowballs never came, you just felt like the team fights could only go one way.
Samsung picks up their first victory, and the teams from Group C are done with today's battles. That means it's time for Immortals and Longzhu to make their Worlds debut. Meet us back here right after this.
Root caller to come in. This one's going to be it. He's going to slalom through the minions, but not far enough. First blood.
No flash, Gragas. He's really low. No flash. Nice, nice, nice.
Perks in the mid lane, almost getting chomped down, but that's already been used by Cube. Another kill on to expect, and that goes into the hands of Ruler. The silence, the ruptures. G2 can hardly even move inside their own bases. Samsung Galaxy plows through the front door. Look